Hey, comic book readers, and welcome to a very special live episode of Off the Rack. As with every episode of Off the Rack, it is at one point live, and then if you're catching it afterwards, it is no longer live. But hey, if you're here right now, it means you're watching it live. I am your host, Sal, along with my other host, Tiffany, your host,
Hi.
really. It's a little different today, but it's not the norm. We're getting back to basics very soon. We
Yeah.
want to mention this show is sponsored by viewers like you. If you want to help us out, you can use super chats, ask a question or comment here on the program. We'll read it just right here, and you'll be part of the show forever. This is a show, of course, where we take books from the past week and we recap them, we review them mostly, and then we tell you what books are coming out this week that we think you should pick up. And there's a doozy of books coming out next week, or this week, I should say. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. We got three big topics of conversation happening today. We're talking about the death of the Justice League. They died, and they're never coming back.
Ever.
The brand new status quo of Spider-Man, which is so different and so new. And also an added extra thing that I wanted to talk about with Tiffany, and I forgot to mention it to her.
Oh boy, I love surprises.
I know. Jordan White did an interview with some group. I don't remember who it was. It was Aped Comics. I don't remember what the hell that stands for, but they get on all the book covers. And White wanted to share some thoughts on what happened with Moira and why she is what she is,
Okay.
and how that may or may not be what Hickman planned all along.
Oh, okay.
So we got all that and more happening today.
I'm
on
excited.
Off the Rack. Yeah. So before we jump into everything, actually that is everything. So
That's
I'm
everything.
excited to just.
So thanks for hanging out with us, and
yeah,
we'll see you
that's
next week.
Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and of course donate to our Patreon generously. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Here's the deal. I'm going to pull up a book that I read.
It's like you're like at random. I won't even know what it is. Like it might be mine, it might be yours.
Yeah. No, this is a book. This should have been a big deal, and it wasn't because of how freaking delayed it was. And that would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin #5.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, indeed.
All right. I'm sorry. I fell right into that. I did exactly what you needed me to do by accident.
It's a story by Peter Laird, written by Tom Waltz, with art by Esau Escorza. The Dark Knight Returns-ification of Ninja Turtles. Of course, this is like a fun little homage in its own right, because Ninja Turtles was inspired primarily by Eastman and Laird's love of Frank Miller comics. Of course, if you see, that whole kind of like snake eating itself of Ninja Turtles, cool. So here it is. Yay, I guess. First issue, huge. Oh no, I got rid of Tiffany.
That's okay.
There we go.
I'm back.
Huge numbers. Did great. And then, some delays hit it. Some significant delays.
Yeah, like I feel like I don't think I remember the last time you talked about the previous issue. Like I don't have.
I think it's been a year. I think it's been a year or so.
I can't say for sure, but it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wraps up, and what happens, the fourth turtle. I don't know how many people read this book, so I don't want to spoil everything. But like,
did you say the fourth turtle? There are 4 turtles.
Yeah, the surviving turtle.
Oh.
Of the Ninja Turtles gets bloody revenge.
Okay.
Casey and April's daughter, Casey, saves the day in her own way. This is not a very good issue.
Really?
Yeah, it was. The wind was knocked out of its sails by the delays. If it was released as an original graphic novel, I think it would have had a lot more impact. I think this will be one of the few times that this book will be poorly reviewed, because I think when it's all collected, more people will remember it, and they will remember that it's all together, and they'll feel that emotional, impact of the final issue all at once. And so as a result, they'll never remember the horrible delays or the
right.
Just the complete wrap of like it. It's at the end of the day, it's very superficial.
Okay.
It's you know, it's a bad guy, descendant of Shredder, takes over New York. All but one turtle remains. The future sucks. He's grizzled and angry. So to get honor and revenge for his family, he kills the bad guy. You know, the real tension is like, will he or will he not die?
Right.
You know, there is some. I don't know. I think that when it's all read together, it'll feel a lot better.
Okay.
I need to reread the whole series. I just read this like from the last time I read issue 4 to now, and so I'm like, ugh. But
Right.
I reread the last like 4 pages because I was like, I didn't feel anything,
Mm-hmm.
and I should have felt something.
Feeling
what the
should
hell?
have been had, and none were.
Yeah, it's because it's a fun out of continuity, future dark, interpretation of the turtles inspired
Mhm.
by its own inspiration. So like neat.
So, I guess you're gonna give it a little time and then come back to it and see
Yes.
about it, because it's either like you said exactly the delay, or they just couldn't stick the landing, which does happen.
Yeah, and I think that it's funny, like the landing is all you could have expected from it. Like it is what it is, and it
Mhm.
is like it's not trying to be anything else.
Right.
It is just being a substantiveless Dark Knight Returns reimagination.
Right.
But I don't know, man. It's something else.
Okay.
This will be the next Turtles book you see on back issues.
Okay, so even after all that, you're like, yeah, but I'm still gonna do it.
It's huge. It's the hugest the Turtles have been in comic form since they launched.
Right, but does that warrant?
Well, I mean, I think the premise of it being, a Dark Knight Returns for the
Okay.
Ninja Turtles is neat enough.
All right, that's.
I didn't say it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm just saying it'll be the next one.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to a larger discussion of this, because like the way
Yeah.
you described it, it's like you said, it seems very by the numbers for an ending.
It was the endings felt very like this is the part where this has to happen. This is the part where this has to happen.
Right, which is like, now when you look back on Dark Knight, just because of everything, like everyone trying to mimic that since its, inception, now it has that like, by the numbers feel, only because everyone's trying to be it and not because it was actually innovative at the time. But there is something truly innovative about the ending to Dark Knight, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like there's something there. And the first time you read it, it's like, wow.
It ain't the same ending as
Okay.
Dark Knight Returns, and maybe that's the problem, but I don't know. It's the art's really fun. I think it's very it's there's no dip in quality when it comes to Escorza's art.
Okay.
It is gritty. It is supposed to feel that way. No one looks pretty or glorious in this book, and that's a good thing.
Sure.
And I'm surprised. I'm honestly just very surprised, and I think I'll just read it all over again. I think this really didn't need a 4th issue. Like I remember issue 4 being like, I got to the end of it and I thought, you didn't need to do any of this.
Do you think it suffered a little from decompression, and maybe they could have taken a page out of Black Label, doing a lot of like 3s, like how there's a lot of like 3-part stories in Black Label right now?
Last Ronin should have absolutely only been 3 issues. And I think it was delayed. This is another like conspiracy theory. Like this is like just my tinfoil hat theory, but I really do feel like this was only 5 issues because they were like, the sales on this book are unprecedented and we need to keep it going for as long as we can. So there you have it. Ninja Turtles 5, The Last Ronin. If you have been reading it, you must read the ending. If you haven't been reading it, wait until it's all collected and read the whole damn thing. That's the only way you can read it. You should never read this month to month.
Well, and though, if you had it on your pull list and you had them all and you haven't read them yet, just go ahead and read them all together.
Yeah, exactly.
Now's your time.
Now go pick it all up. We'll jump into another book in a second, but I wanted to mention, of course, since we have some sponsors, let's read a few of them.
Sure.
Brian Rollins with El Muerto getting a movie. Which D-list Spider-Man characters are next? Puma, Cardiac. They both have such source material. They have more source material. Great article for CBR. Thank you very much, Brian. Yeah, I wrote an article for CBR. It's out now. You can
Yay.
read it. It's fun. It's in the community tab for this episode or for this video, this channel. So go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Listen, don't throw stones at Cardiac. Cardiac has he's an anti-hero, he's a villain, he's
He's a
a
great
doctor,
warrior.
he's a great warrior, and he deserves your respect. Let me tell you something. I know at least one human being who would pay $50 a ticket to go see Cardiac. And in cinemas now. If they don't want to bring back Jamie Foxx's Electro, he could play Cardiac.
Listen, everybody's got that character. I think everybody's got that character that, the general public would be like, why? But you're like, no, you don't understand.
I know.
Like,
there's no Cardiac Martian level. There's no Cardiac Marvel Legends figure. There's a Puma. No Cardiac.
Trust me, they'll get to it.
They need to.
They're gonna.
Matthew Terlaga, I thought I was pretty well versed in Spider-Man lore, but can someone please explain to me who El Muerto is? Wasn't the wrestler Pete fought named Crusher Hogan? Yes, he was. This is El Muerto from Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man during Civil War. He's in 2 issues. It's worth $150 a piece now because
2 issues?
Yep, because
they're gonna make a whole movie.
No, they're not.
They want to.
It's Sony. They're lying. That's what they say.
Lying.
They're liars. Cat Lawyer will defend for treats. Thanks for making Dreadful Mondays awesome. Love. Thank you very much, Cat Lawyer.
Yay.
Vance
and
Cunningham
had a bad Monday.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad it's looking up. Vance Cunningham can't wait to see Peter Hooten from the 1978 Doctor Strange TV movie in Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, I don't think you'll be seeing Peter Hooten unless he's in a menagerie of multiversal portals and stuff, and they just use a clip from that video. But let me tell you something. That 1978 Doctor Strange movie is not only one of the most boring things I've ever seen, but also really low resolution. It'd be tough to get a high res enough image to actually show him.
So you know what's funny about that? Like, I would take that because at least it's very much directly related to the character, the titular character.
Yeah.
As opposed to what everyone else is excited for. And just because they slap a group name on it doesn't mean that that's a fraction of what Strange does, everybody. Okay. He has a whole other wealth of lore and myth and story behind him that has nothing to do with that specific group. But hey, you know what? Let's just ignore all of that and go the other way.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I'm fine.
I'm sure. We were going to go see it tonight, but we can't.
That's okay.
So
it's
sorry.
Okay. I know.
Ray Farr, I bought Gerard Way's Doom Patrol #1 today because of Tiffany's great video on it.
Thank you.
I also loved your CBR article, Sal, and loved the Loch Ness video. Thank you. Yes. Over
your
on
CBR article is excellent, and I hope you enjoyed Doom Patrol because it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. My Chemical Romance, I think, is touring again. Like, if you go see them, make a sign that just says, I love Casey Brink. See what happens.
Yeah. Or Danny Lives, or
yeah.
Or Young Animal is Alive. Kingsport Cal, that Man Thing print, Tiff. I want to see a studio tour video. I dig y'all style. Looks like a place I'd love to hang out in. Tiffany looks like MJ today.
Well, thank you. Actually, I'm not in the studio. I'm in my home. This is my office space. So this is what I did to my office space. And this print is a Francis Francavilla print that Sal got me. It's one of the Mondo prints. They're super high quality archival. And we don't get sponsored by them. I just really love their prints and their work. They're very hard to get.
Yeah.
Mondo prints, we have a lot.
Yeah, we have a few.
We have quite a few. But they're hard to get, and I love it. I love it so much. But thanks for liking the scene.
Dan V900, the last Ronin took so long to come out that I honestly forgot what happened. I feel like it would have been better as just a one shot with one issue, with the first issue. Yeah, but then people wouldn't have bought it. Like they would have bought the one issue and that would have been it. You know, they released 3 different versions of the first issue because of how many delays there were. Or it's the director's cut, the black and white edition. It's just, give me a break. Ray Farr, Tiff from Meh to how you feeling, Doctor Strange 2? Well, I think we know the answer to that one.
It's a meh. It's a meh because I haven't seen it yet. It might go from a meh to something else. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know because, I'm trying not to get in a headspace that I'm already allowing it to happen. And I think it's just the general vibe of there's excitement around this movie, but most people aren't excited for what they
Strange.
should be, in my opinion, excited about, which is like, it's not, that's my opinion. That's my opinion. It's a subjective opinion. So it's like, I got to let that go. But
Yeah.
like, you know, when it was Spider-Man, at least the things that people were excited about that were multiversal were all about Spider-Man.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm just having a hard time with it, but it's going to be fine. I'm going to go see the movie. I'm going to keep as open a mind as possible.
Good idea. Jordan Phil, howdy guys. Would you ever consider a donation from a form where we could send a comic book to be signed? Would be willing to spend a few hundred to have an Ultimatum or Clone Saga signed by ComicPop. Well, you wouldn't need to spend more than the price of admission to any convention we go to.
You don't want us to ruin your comic.
No, people have done that though. When we did our the Kubert School edition of our live show, and we were physically there, and people came.
Yes,
60 people. Not tooting our own horns or anything, but I am.
Toot.
I don't want to brag, but I will. And there were a few people who brought comic books for us to ruin, and we did. We signed them, and now they're valueless. But
I double checked every time. I was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, I was like, "Listen, it's okay.
It's okay. You don't have to do this."
Yeah, but listen, yeah, like come to a convention we're at, and we'll do it. I promise. Or you can just mail it to us. Actually, no, don't do that because I can't mail anything back. Beautiful Vash. Honestly, I'm getting the feeling Wells is trying to ape JMS's run, but worse, and build Peter up again. Last 2 pages read like a misdirection to me, in my opinion. Well, we'll get into that in a short while. I promise you. Tiffany, what did you read today?
Let's talk about a couple of indies. Let me just throw them out there.
Yeah.
Keep everybody on the hook, but now you have to listen to me talk about an indie. I read / looked at Step by Bloody Step. I say that because this is the Cy Spurrier, Mateo Bagara wordless comic.
Yep.
And it's really funny, this issue, and we started off and I was kind of like, I didn't feel a lot of strength in the storytelling initially, in the art, which is a big problem because you're going to have a comic that has no words in it. As I kept going through, I recognized the fact that I had missed some key moments and ended up going back and was like, oh my God. And that like 1 or 2 panels completely changed what the story was actually about.
Wow.
And I was like, holy crap, that's on me. That's on me. And that's like an indicator of like the way I think a lot of people read, which is we just kind of go through it quickly.
Yep.
And I do try to stop and look at the art, but like I guess I just wasn't in that mindset today. And I was like, ooh, let me slow this down. I will say this story made me gasp at least twice.
Ooh.
Actual allowed gasps into the ether. There was no one around, so no one heard it except the cats. But
they're not telling.
They're not telling, but I really like this issue. I guess I said originally felt like it was not so strong, but by the end of it, I was like, this might have been the strongest storytelling they've done so far in this. This is issue 3. I can't remember how long this series is going for. I don't think it's super long. I honestly don't remember. But it is a testament to comics and storytelling. And again, I'm glad that not every comic is just images. I think this is a fun exercise though, because I love the fact that comics are a marriage of word and image together to tell a complete story. But good on Spurrier. He takes a back seat a lot of times on the title pages. It is his story. He did write it, but Bagara is the one who's really carrying the load there. So it's really fun. You're only 3 issues in, so you could easily grab them. But otherwise, like, I hope that one day this is animated. I know it would still be, it would have no like voice acting to it necessarily, but like I would adore to see this animated. It would be gorgeous.
You know who should direct it?
Who?
Genny Taratovsky.
Oh yeah.
Because he's so good at doing that. Like there's at least one episode of Samurai Jack that's just wordless and just sound and visuals. And it's like, dude.
He could direct it, but I would also love to see the Ghibli.
Art.
Well, I'd love to see the Ghibli animation style on this. Because this is a very painterly and like at times makes me very much think of like Nausicaa. So I'd love to see that.
Dude, I think Tartakovsky would love to work with Ghibli to make that happen.
Right? Yeah. That'd be okay. We'll just help to produce that. It's not a problem.
Oh, there we go.
I don't know anybody. We'll make this happen.
Yeah. With our non-Rolodex, we'll be able to make that happen.
Yep. The other one that I want to bring up while I've got you guys here, I read Bloodstained Teeth.
Yep.
Because vampires, man, they never go out of style. Apparently. This is written by Christian Ward with art by Patrick Reynolds. This is kind of fun. Like the art style is like very like realistic, but like got that like grit to it, that type of style. You know what I'm talking about? It has like it's like Vertigo. And what I say by that, like it's just heavy on the shadow, heavy on the textures, unafraid to be make people look unattractive. It's just kind of cool. Coloring style on it, I like it. It's like it's got a really heavy CMYK unmixed colors kind of vibe to it.
Oh,
Like I dig that quite a bit.
right.
But it's about vampires, man. So if you're not a big fan of vampires, you're probably not going to dig this. Like it's creating lore and rules. Like there's like firstborn vampires, and like they're the only like real vampires. And then like if one of them bites somebody, they become like a sip who is like a killing machine or monster. Like they've got no control, and so like they're not really supposed to exist. Like that's not how
Cool.
things are supposed to happen. And it's dealing with the ramifications of one guy who basically hires himself out to do
Yeah.
that, to turn people into sips, the illegal version of vampires,
Okay.
for like money, where he's just like, you pay me X dollars up front, and then like now you're immortal, so I get a percentage of all the money you make for the rest of time.
Oh, okay.
You know what I
And I
mean?
guess
Like
if you get a few of those people, you're gonna be
you're
sitting
good.
pretty.
You're good, right?
Yeah.
But there's a definite big falling out from that. They address like Dracula and Bram Stoker like it's basically it's a myth. It's a story they like vampires created to hide behind, basically. And I'm like, all right, so there's it's kind of fun. It's grim, it's gritty. It has like kind of a Vertigo feel. It is rated M for mature, so I think it's probably why I'm thinking Vertigo, along with the art style. But like I said, if you don't like vampires, this probably isn't going to sell you on it.
Well, that's okay. That's why we have the indie space, to like give you something you might not expect.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mind some vampire stuff sometimes. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. We have to pick and choose
It
nowadays.
depends. It depends on the story of like what they're dealing with. There's some vampire stuff where I'm like, no, no, I
Yeah.
don't care.
There's a movie that Red Letter Media brought me onto that I think you would really like. I don't know if like it's I
Like
don't know if you would.
ironically or like actually.
No, I think you might actually really like it. It's from God, I want to say it's the like late 80s, like 88, 87, and it's called Near Dark.
I've
It's
never
got
heard of
Lance
that.
Henriksen in it. No, nobody's heard of it. It's like nothing. But it's like it's like a Lost Boys if it wasn't funny at all in any way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bill Paxton's in it. I think it was like written by one of the people from Terminator 2. Like it's the same people. Like
Interesting.
yeah. What's
Okay.
it called? Vasquez is in it. Bill Paxton's in it. Bishop's in it. It's
Okay.
like yeah. But anyway, vampires
Vampires, man. They never go
go out of
away.
style.
They don't. I thought that was like going to be much like zombies, that like vampires are going to be one of those things where it's like we tell a whole bunch of stories and then they're going to go away for a while and they'll come back. But like there's always just vampires. They kind of just flatline, and they just kind of
Yep.
they're always there.
Yep. And sometimes they hit big, and other times they just hit the audience that they're meant to hit.
Yeah, but there's always at least one vampire story out there for you.
Yeah. Vincent Brown. Hey guys, I've been dealing with a lot of crap recently. I've been dealing with a lot recently, but your content always like makes me smile. Well, thank you. Was curious if you caught some of that leaked Doctor Strange footage. I
Nope.
did not.
Nope,
So
and I don't want
please
to.
keep it to yourselves.
No, like I said, like I really want to go in with as open a mind as possible. I was really pissed off that like another like spot gave away the fact that they were clearly doing the thing I thought they were doing, in terms of, I'm not gonna say it out loud, but like in terms of like a specific Marvel like, group being involved in this movie. And I was like, like you said it out loud. I was just kind of enjoying guessing, but
Yeah.
we can't guessing isn't allowed anymore in this space, apparently. Like
That's
in the pop culture scene, no.
Yeah.
So I've just stopped watching anything having to do with it until I get to go see it.
Dan Dragon, hey guys, what are your thoughts on Star Wars micro series, and have you seen Symbiotic Titan? If you're talking about that anime show, we watched that, and that was awesome. And I have not seen Symbiotic Titan. I know what you're talking about, though. I have not watched it.
What was the anime show? Sorry, I was reading something else. Oh, the Star Wars micro series. Yes, yeah, that was good.
I think that's
if that's what you're talking about. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was reading because someone in the chat asked if anyone was reading Suicide Squad Blaze, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, you review it every time the issue comes out.
I do. I do. I like it quite a bit.
Dan V900, I completely agree, Sal, with Step by Bloody Step. Jenny Tartakovsky's Primal has no dialogue, and it's incredible. he could pull that off easily. Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Got some confirmation there.
Well, I mean, I would also just say because of Samurai Jack, because so much of that series was visual without a lot of dialogue. So
yeah, there's so many episodes with like virtually no dialogue.
yep.
I read Punisher #2 from Jason Aaron and Jesus Saiz.
Oh crap! I forgot that even came out. I didn't read it.
I know the cover is like really unassuming, but I really like. I love this book. It's great. I read there was a comment in one of our videos recently where they were like, "I can't believe that like they made Punisher go woke and stuff," and I'm like, "What? If you read this book, you would not be saying that." This is like everything that makes Jason Aaron in the best way. Like Jason Aaron, there's I think there's a very clear distinction between Marvel Jason Aaron and then like the rest of Jason Aaron. You know, like where Jason Aaron wrote like Scalped, and it's like what? Good lord, this is Scalped Aaron.
No, I don't.
Marvel
I don't
Aaron.
think it's that. I think it's not. It's not Marvel versus like other.
Indie.
I think it's individual character versus
Yeah.
team.
Right. Well, his teams are not great.
It's not a strong suit for him, but like
Mm-mm.
most of his like character studies, like you get that, like Conan, like Strange, like Punisher now, like he takes the character, he, gets a vibe for it and he goes with it. Like Punisher's going to be very different. At least the first issue was very different than like King Conan feels.
Yeah. Oh no, it's true. Yeah, it's a great series. I mean, of 2 that I've read. But just eases Frank further into like this whole new identity with the hand, and there's a lot of like fun social commentary about like America, basically like the right hand of the beast or whatever, this like old woman who's been old forever, who like I think in this issue is the one where they were like, she picked him out when he was a child. That's like there is a little bit of retconning in here where it's like she found Frank, like he was like walking home in the middle of like, the city, and she's like, hey, and she like has these daggers and she's like, pick your dagger, and he's like, get away from me, you weirdo. and then he's older and she's like, do you remember when an old crazy woman came up to you with daggers? Well, now you need to like pick out the dagger, and the dagger represents like the beast of the hand or whatever, and it means that he's the right person. And it's like they've been looking for the perfect killer, and she's like, I looked all over the world, and then I heard all about like these like cowboys and school shootings and like police brutality and blah blah blah. And it's like, if I need to find a killer, I need to go to America. And I'm like, but Frank and Maria have an amazing sequence together.
Okay.
I love the depiction of her. It's incredible.
I can't wait to read this.
It's so good. They're just because she was killed. She's riddled with bullets, and they just she was dead, and it's just you look at her, you're like, you're dead. And but she has this moment where she's like, when can we see our children? And you're like, oh geez. And so that's pretty cool. Yeah, there's just that like the other shoe is coming, and we're only on issue 2.
Right.
But yeah, the art's spectacular. It's just beautifully rendered. Really, like I would have a problem with it because it's like it's more in a realistic style, but like the characters typically, if it were done by a lesser artist, or maybe like if Dave Stewart wasn't coloring it, it would look more static, and less vibrant, but or less animated. But instead, it's just dope. Like it's just read Punisher. If you're sleeping on this book, you shouldn't, because they're gonna cancel this book.
You think?
I think so. I mean, like, it's only an issue 2. I know that, like, I'm sure 50% of the sales drop down, but like, it needs to sell a certain margin.
Right.
I think it's amazing. I think it's great.
Yeah. I wonder if this is one of those though where like they should have just let him do it as like an OGN.
Marvel was never going to let him do that.
I know they were never going to do that, but like, I don't know.
Like they'll treat it like one in terms of they'll probably only get like 12 to 20 issues.
But, I mean, that's better than.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think Aaron is gonna like Avengers this, where it's like, no, I'm in it for the long haul.
No, but you were saying canceled, like it wasn't going to get a chance to finish at least an arc.
Well, if it doesn't sell, it won't.
Right.
But it is Aaron, so Aaron doesn't get canceled. Joshua Link, I was so prepared to hate this new Punisher series, and I could not have been more wrong. This series rules. Thank you, Joshua. And he's not a plant. Thank you very much, Joshua, for supporting me. Yes.
Hey, I supported you. I just didn't read the second issue.
No, I know. No, I'm not saying you didn't. I'm saying we need to get more talk about this. But yeah, Punisher, read it. It's great. Ka-ching.
Ka-ching.
What else did you read?
Let's continue on the indie pathway and talk about Saga. Saga number 58 came out this week, and here's the book I can't talk about with anybody. But this was so goddamn good this week. I mean, it's just been getting better and better, and this was the third gasp of the day, the last page, and it Brian,
don't
just don't. I know you think you want to, but don't, okay? Because the hate mail that you're gonna get ain't worth it.
Yeah,
it's not worth it.
Well, it will be satisfying.
You're dangling on that last page in front of us right now, and don't, okay?
Yeah, and because you saw him in person, and he gave this thing where he said nobody's safe, and then this page was no, 3 of your favorite characters might not be safe.
It's just there's really just one for me, but
we all know who it is.
We all know who it is, and I'm just not going to put it out there, but I'm just saying, don't. Please don't.
Yeah,
because Fiona's on board with that. There's only 2 for her that she doesn't. Yeah,
she knows.
Yeah, so no, there's just 1. Never mind, but that wasn't on the list. So, but anyway, the rest of the issue though, fantastic. I mean, it's just Vaughn and Staples doing what they do best, which is being hey, did you forget about this character? Because we didn't. And I'm oh crap, right? Yes. Leave it up to Vaughn to be able to handle adding in a whole myriad of other characters to the story, and then also be I have not forgotten about this, or this, and it doesn't feel like it's too much. Everything comes back when it's supposed to. Nice. So it's just great. It continues to be good. Like I said, the first of the coming back issues, I was but everything else since then has just felt like Saga. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to more, but don't, Brian.
Yeah. Don't. I like how somebody said that we were overhyping it.
Overhyping what? Saga?
I think it was Punisher, but either way, yeah, man, it's my show.
Yeah, you're not overhyping it. You like it.
It's a great comic pop. You should definitely subscribe and like all our videos. I feel like I'm overhyping me, but
What?
Abe Sapien says, just wanted to thank Tiffany for recommending Knights of X. I'm really glad we have a book with Betsy Braddock again.
Yes, even though it's only 5 issues, which seems to be the current thing right now. A lot of the X books are just going to be little one, little there. And I'm maybe that's smart. I don't know.
Right.
But I did read that this week, so we can talk about that.
Let's talk about Knights of X.
I read Knights of X. Because of course I was going to read Knights of X because it's hey, I loved Excalibur, and then they were hey, no more Excalibur, but secretly, it's not secret. It's just here's more Excalibur, but under the title Knights of X, written by Tini Howard with art by Bob Quinn. Bob Quinn does a really nice job. Looks good. Looks real good. Honestly, art looks
good. Looks real good.
Looks real good. But I also want to give a shout out to Eric Arciniega.
Yeah.
For some really standout colors, really. Just giving us some really smooth, beautiful colors that make you think of those main X titles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's something about the art from the main X-Men book, and has been consistently since, Hawks and Pox came out. There was just something soft and beautiful and really incredible about the coloration. The tone
for the series.
And I got to tell you, this book kind of has that feel, and
nice.
I really appreciate it. This is going to be a 5-issue mini. And I got to tell you, listen, I don't think this is going to play into any sort of huge role, just like what happened with Ten of Swords, where it was dude, you want to get into Ten of Swords, you kind of have to have read Excalibur for a little bit. You got to know a little bit what's been going on there because it's going to play a role, right? This is just kind of completing that story because Merlin has taken over for Saturnine, so we're going to deal with that. But the way that we're couching this is that they're going on a quest.
Yay!
They're going on a quest, and I adore that. And we've gotten some of the band back together. Jubilee's sitting this one out because this quest isn't for her. Magic says no. But Shogo's going to be there. And Richter's there. And he's brought Shatterstar. And Bay's going to be there. And Gambit. And Gambit has a panel in this that legit read to me like Gambit. And in the best way possible. Because they all kind of arrive for this quest, and Bay is there, and like she doesn't like the idea of leaving Douglas behind back in Krakoa, but she's like, I guess I'm called to a quest, so I guess I'm going to be here. And like, so she has this moment with Gambit where she's like, like, here we are, like, away from our loved ones, how do you feel about that? And like, if you like earlier in the issue, Gambit wakes up getting the call for the quest, and there's like a note from Rogue that says like, hey, sorry, I'm working late, I'm not going to be home. And so like Gambit's like, yeah, well, Rogue's pretty busy right now, ain't she, Bay? Maybe Gambit got stuff to do too. And I was like, don't do this, Remy. That's so him though. He can't help himself.
Yeah.
It's just, I was like, nice. That was really good, Teeny. That was excellent. But yeah, like, and we're gonna bring Mordred into this because Mordred, they're like, he's got an X gene. So we're gonna deal with that because Merlin's on like a holy quest to get rid of all the witch breed from Otherworld.
Right.
I love it because there's like the Furies, which have shown up in the past in other X titles. But now they have their own like part of Otherworld that's theirs, and there's like really big versions of them. So it's like magic sentinels, kind of. And I'm like, I like that. It's just a really good visual. But smart to do like hey, how are we going to run like a 5-issue kind of mini? Well, we're just going to do a quest that way it can be over when it's over. And they're going after the Siege Perilous, which is a thing that has come up in the past in X-Men, but it's also from Arthurian lore. Like the Siege Perilous in X-Men or in Marvel, I think is like a gateway that if you enter through it, you come out like a changed person or like a new person, basically. And like Arthur wants it so he can send Mordred through, and hopefully he'll come out like a regular man and he could save his like son, right? And in Arthurian lore, it's an empty seat at the round table that he who brings back the Holy Grail will take. And I was like, that's kind of cool. So I thought this was super well written. It made me feel like we were back to Excalibur. Saturnine still a pain in the ass, and we've got like this huge like quest that we're going to be going on. So those of us who like mythical RPGs or pen and paper RPGs, like this might be something you might want to look into. I don't know.
Yeah.
I had a good time.
Good. What else you got?
Well,
while you pull that up, I'll read some super chats. But
okay.
What's it called? Yes, Betsy Braddock, Young Goku over 9,000. Hey, Sal, I know you know a lot of comic history about the industry and relationships, like why we won't get another Marvel DC crossover. Do you ever think about doing any videos about that sort of thing? I made a video where I pitched like how we could get a Marvel DC crossover, and I think it was a pretty fun, like quick, informative video. But I don't. Those would be. We did we kind of tangented into it in a discussion that Ben and I had about the Morbius Venom verse, and honestly, like the views are so low on that tangent, and I got really like disillusioned by a creator who gave me a really needlessly hard time on Twitter regarding our Marvel DC crossover. That
you did.
I'm kind of gun shy about ever talking about it in any serious or earnestness ever again, because like of how disillusioningly like mean spirited and hypocritical it was. And I was like, I don't really want to do that anymore.
Right. No, I get it. I get it. I don't think you should let that person who might have just been having a bad day.
He certainly took his bad day out on me.
Yeah. But like, listen, people do that, and like, you'll never get an apology for that, because people who do that, like, typically, if they do it over and over again, are the kind of people who are just like, I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, like,
well, the problem was I wasn't Gail Simone. If I was Gail Simone, he might have definitely agreed with me.
And there are plenty of people like that in the world, and like there certainly can seem at times to be like, like there's like an inner circle of sorts. But I wouldn't let that rob you of what you want to talk about, and it's only if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, and I like you'll see them on back issues. Like I have deliberately left a number of like Marvel DC crossovers like off the list just so I can get to them again, like as we go. But yeah, happy now. Any tips for must see nerd locations in New York for a big Spider-Man and Marvel fan visiting for my first time in September? Dude, I gotta tell you, man, like the Marvel universe is super cool and awesome, and it's also frustrating because like all those locations are fake. Like 177A Bleecker Street is not the Sanctum Sanctorum. It's just like an apartment complex, and it's not even like they don't even play with it. You know,
Yeah.
you can go to the Brooklyn Bridge, and it's just there. Like how it's drawn is there. You're good. You don't need to be cold and stand over there. Um, Honestly, I would just go to like comic book stores. Like I go to comic book stores or other like nerdy like locations.
Yeah. You can go outside of the Marvel building.
Yeah, you could go outside the Marvel building
You
and
can't go in.
be asked to leave. The
Yep.
only thing I might recommend, and it's something I've never been to in my life, and I've lived in the shadow of New York my entire life, is the Park Avenue Viaduct, which is where where the big Avengers battle took place, and I've never been there, and it's weird because it's like right there.
Yeah.
But I would go there and check it out, even just to be like, neat, look at that. I wouldn't go to Forest Hills either. It's just a community.
And it's far.
Yeah, and it's far. What I would recommend. I mean, it depends on how much time you have. Like, I'd go to like the Ghostbusters Firehouse, but that's
I would
me.
check. You know what I would also do is I would check to see if there's a whole like there's not just like the big like the MoMA and the Met. There's other museums there, and some of them focus a lot on like illustrations and like
Yes.
at times comics. So I would check to see if any of those have any exhibits because sometimes they'll get like roving collections of like original pages or a specific artist's like works. So
Yeah.
while you're in New York, like take a look to see if any of those museums have an exhibit you might want to check out because it might be a chance for you to check out some up close like comic book art.
You might also, if you're in Queens, want to go to the Museum of the Moving Image.
Yeah, that's just fun. If you like the Muppets or like movies,
If you like Muppets, you're gonna like that exhibit. It's pretty
my,
dope.
my dude, don't do it.
Uh,
Sorry, you
yeah.
you should do it. There's a cat. Don't step on the comics.
Vincent Brown out of the X books this week. Sabretooth was my favorite. Victor Lavier is on fire.
I think it's Laval.
Did you read it?
Yeah, I read it.
What'd you think of Sabretooth?
So this book's like frustrating to me.
Because I know how much you don't like it. So
I don't like. Here's the thing. Oh, you knocked over the drowned wash.
oh no.
Sabretooth number 3 came out this week, written by Victor Laval with art by Leonard Kirk. So like it's not the first issue of this book didn't really catch me. And I had this moment this week where I was like, did I read issue 2? And I was like, yeah. The problem was issue 2 came out in like March.
Yeah.
Of like March 9th. So it's been a minute since an issue of this came out. So I was like, oh crap, what happened? So I kind of had to refresh myself. I find it difficult for writers sometimes to write books about characters you're not supposed to like. Like, this is not a redemption story for Sabretooth, which is what
Yeah.
I thought we were going to be getting into. And so now that I've gotten over that, now I'm just like, okay, now I need to take the story for what it actually is versus what I had thought we were going on. Like, the journey I thought we were taking is not the journey we're going on. So it's like I kind of have to readjust my brain to go down that path. But the like other characters that we've been introduced, including like a character by the name of Melter.
Yes, Melter.
Melter. We get a little like backstory about how he got involved in this like under Krakoa sort of,
Hell.
well, like suspended animation,
Right.
like
Banishment, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like, and so I get it, kind of. This book, like, simultaneously is definitely calling into question the acts that that Professor X and the others on the council took,
Yeah.
but not enough. Like, Sabretooth is a bad guy,
Right.
and like does want to see the world burn.
Yeah.
Right. And like has no care or love for literally anyone else and like the future and the possibilities. Not that I'm saying that Eric and Charles and Moira's plan was the right one, but like what they're trying to do, well, initially until everything changed in terms of what Moira was doing, but like initially it was really supposed to be about like trying to save mutantdom, right? Like trying to make sure that they made it. And like freaking like Sabretooth is just a chaotic evil character. And like, what are you going to do with a character like that? Like, even Apocalypse was able to be like, okay, let's ride this out and see how it's going. Let's
That's
just,
true.
Sinner's just doing his own thing, but like he sees the value to some degree. Like everybody
Yeah.
kind of gets it. And then you have Sabretooth. So I'm just kind of like, I mean,
Like, what would you
I mean,
say you do
I
here?
guess they could have just executed him and then not brought him back. But I guess
Yes.
they didn't necessarily like the idea of mimicking human justice. I don't know.
Well, I wonder what like Hickman's idea for Sabretooth was, because they could have just killed him and then been like, he is on like the shit list when it comes to resurrection protocols, and that
Yeah.
would have been it, right? Like, because then it's like you have to make it an ordeal to bring him back, but to engineer the like subterranean banishment thing,
Yeah.
it showcases intent.
It does. It does. And like, because, you know, mutants can't kill humans. There's like literally no way Sabretooth wouldn't do that. Like
Right.
Sabretooth was going to be a problem. And I think they knew that and they didn't know what else to do with him other than
Yeah.
possibly kill him. So they put him in this hole. Now they've put other people in the hole as well. And that's where I was like, like I
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this, and I don't know if if I feel like they're exploring the issue enough,
Right.
or like what this is meant to what this punishment is meant to actually be. But we're only on issue 3 of the 5, so there's still 2 more issues. But written wise, like the dialogue's good. I like the turn at the end of this issue. I'm kind of like really starting to get into a few of the characters that have shown up. Um, and then there's just Sabretooth, doing Sabretooth things. Like, here's the thing: if you're a villain, apparently on Krakoa, doesn't matter who you are, whatever writer gets you, apparently you too will have machinations.
Oh yeah,
Um,
everyone's got plans. Everybody's got
so
plans.
like even Sabretooth has his own like quiet council, like of different versions of him that he has in this, space below. And one of them is like smarter than the others and he has machinations.
Oh
And,
my
was
god.
like, oh yeah, Sabretooth's plan was this, but secretly the plan was this because I knew they were gonna do blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Right. Got it. Sure. Whatever.
uh,
But it is allowing the other characters to have their moment. And like it's so funny because while yes, Charles and Eric were the like main forces behind, the Quiet Council and all of that, people
yeah.
voted for Sabretooth to be put down there. And I think at the end of this, Charles is gonna take the fall for it. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
a majority of hands had to go up for this to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Well,
forget.
the thing is, like, they could just say that Xavier made them all like, decide to vote that way.
Yeah, I think Emma did, but so I don't think
Mm,
you can't blame that.
no, that's
You
true.
know? But I think Laval is doing a really nice job with the story that he has, and I don't think it's his job necessarily to explain all the inner workings of this banishment chamber. He's supposed to be telling a story about Sabretooth in it, and
Right.
I feel like they didn't necessarily set him up enough to answer the questions that I have, but
Hmm.
for what he's doing with it and the characters bringing to the table and, like, the dialogue and the visual storytelling, I am digging it. So, like, I am enjoying it now, but I do wish that we had a little bit more to go on, and maybe we will. We're only, like I said, we still have 2 more issues. Maybe some more information will come out. There's plenty of opportunity with like info dumps and graphics and all that stuff within these books. So
Right.
that's what I got.
Fair enough. Joey Amurim with an adorable super sticker. Thank you very much for your support and for your stickers. I wish we had some, like, where we could like create some animated guys, then you could like use them. You
Are
know
we
what I mean?
allowed to do that?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That's why I say I wish. I'm not trying to be passive aggressive at our
Oh,
senior graphic artist. I'm just saying, you know, get somebody like a little Ben, like dancing or something. Little
Ben
cartoon
does
version
like
of it.
to dance.
He does. Kevin Myers, Elseworlds Exchange idea, an episode on headcanon for comics. Much love to you too. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, Joel really wants me to do that episode. I have no interest in talking about that. I not that I don't
This,
have my own headcanons, but I'd have to take inventory of all my headcanons, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. It just
by the
sounds
way,
exhausting.
the super sticker is a thumbs up.
Oh yay! Well, thank you.
Well, maybe it's less about specific headcanons and maybe it's just about the concept of having a headcanon for a
That's
character
fair.
and like how that can be good and bad.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. I like that. Supreme Omega on Amazing Spider-Man, it feels like we're just spinning our wheels over and over with Peter, down on his luck again with him alienated from his loved ones and other heroes. Again, yeah, we'll talk about that. Don't worry, Supreme Omega. But I do hear what you're saying. I get the criticism. Gotham City critics, hey gang, should they use Avengers Mansion for the new iteration of Avengers in the MCU if a new one ends up existing? I'd love that. I mean, we got the Tower for like 1.5 movies, and then we got
maybe
the Compound. I would love the. I would
maybe
love
they're
Avengers
gonna
Mansion.
maybe they're gonna move into the Celestial.
Yeah, I think it's more likely they'll move into the Celestial than they will move into the Mansion. Julian Mitchell. I just wanted to say thanks for recommending Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Maybe we'll see it on Back Issue someday. More Kara episodes.
I freaking love that book. If you haven't read that, seriously, pick it up. Please tell DC we want an oversized edition of this book. Amazing Fantasy from Marvel got an oversized edition, and you got it for me, and it is great looking, but they printed that oversized.
Yeah.
I'm like, DC, you have Bilquis Evely's art, and you're just like, yeah, no, it's fine.
I'm not even a hardcover.
Not even a hardcover.
Insane. Alden Tolbert, what's the Marvel's world has coming to man?
What?
I'm sorry, I have no idea what that means.
Could you read that one more time?
What's the Marvel's world has coming to man?
I got nothing. What's
Matthew Terlaga, Nature Girl, killed dozens, and they've already shown they can't keep her in the pit, so what do you think will become of her?
I don't know. Well, because it's like, again, without a main architect behind it, like, I'm like, are they still having these meetings? Are they still talking to each other? Is there
They're not.
Is there still because like you need that. You need to have these meetings. Like if you're going to be telling a story like in this like little mini shared universe within your shared universe, like you got to kind of be talking with each other a little bit here and there. And some of them are like, I feel like Gillen's doing what he can with that. But I think someone needs to sit down and unravel some of these things that were kind of left on the table by Hickman and be like, all right, listen, we need to come up with reasons and answers to this, even, and just make it fit somehow.
All right. Well, in the Adventures in Poor Taste website interview with Jordan White, they were asked, was the Moira X heel turn planned? Was it part of Jonathan Hickman's original plans?
Now, Jordan White is an editor, right?
An editor, yes.
Yes. I just wanted to, have it for people.
Yes. First, they spend a lot of time using the word plans, more than any human being should say the word plans. And basically, they said that his plans evolved. But how far does that heel turn go? Quite a ways. Did it go back to the beginning? The answer is no. It did not go all the way back to House of X and Powers of 10. It was a thing that he came up with later, but it wasn't that much later. Everything about Jonathan and everything in his stories is so complicated. So even the idea of Moira's heel turn is so simplified, because is anybody in a Jonathan Hickman story really that good or bad? It's not like he thought of her as a good character and then he changed her into a bad character. Like, no, she was always a messed up character who, like, pretty much everybody in power these days does some things that are good and some things that are bad. Like, so there's no answer to this question. And then in the original stuff, she was not going to end up where she is now.
Yeah.
Like her literally saying, I hate Krakoa and I want to murder everybody I used to be friends with was not the plan. Then it follows up by saying, without going into too much detail, it was at the same time as a Moira series, as the Moira series died, is when that actually took place, like when they decided to change it over. Mm-hmm. X-Men Monday fans remember that we at one point were talking about a Moira series. We talked to Al Ewing. He had a pitch. It was good, but Jonathan's plans shifted very radically, and it became, oh, actually, instead of doing that, I'm going to do this. Sorry, Al, let's just get you another book. And in the direction that Moira was going to be shifted in a big way. But that does not mean that we had to like radically reinterpret the scenes from House of X. The questionable things that she did back then are still the same questionable things she did now. It's just where they ultimately ended up being different. Al did have original plans. I don't want to make it sound like we had it in our publishing schedule and it was fully approved, but we talked to him about it and he thought about it, and he's an incredibly smart guy who comes up with great ideas. So he wrote us back saying, here's what I'm thinking. And he had a plan for what the series would be like. And we were like, oh, that's cool. But Hickman didn't like it. So that's that. So there's like, there's about like 12 ounces of content in a 10-pound bag. Basically, no. which is just confirmation. Like, which I would appreciate you just saying no. Just
Yeah,
I don't need like all that because
I feel like they don't want to take responsibility for it because I think they realized a lot of people did not like that turn.
I think most don't. I mean, but
Yeah.
and I think the reason why I assume most don't is because it's the same reason why like most didn't like The Matrix 3. You know, it's like because that's not where the story was going. Like, and I have had issue with this forever. The idea that an author deliberately hijacks their own story to say what they want to say instead of what the story is trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's worse is when the captain is offered a different ship full of money and then abandons ship for that other ship full of money. And then someone else is left, maybe the first mate, or maybe just a couple of pirates to steer the ship. And they see the ship is going in one direction, but still deliberately steer the ship in another direction. The metaphor breaks down, but the point is the X-Men barely resemble what Hickman was planning at this point. And,
yeah. Here's what I don't get. Like most of that, what you read, you know, like about her not being a good or bad character, I don't think that was ever in question. I think that, you know, Moira getting to this point was built on the backs of like becoming dead inside, and that does not make her a good or intrinsically evil character. It just makes her like I need to get the job done and I know better than you character.
Right.
Like
exactly.
You know, like I don't know.
It's just it's a shame. You know, it's a shame that happened, and it's a shame that like, you know, the only, at least I do value and appreciate any official word from the source saying anything, but you know,
I'm gonna need to give this a read because I just kind of want to take a look through it, but it just kind of sounds like they felt like they needed to say something and not that they wanted to say something.
Yeah, the reality is, Marvel doesn't say anything without approval. No creator at Marvel can say anything without approval from Marvel.
Right.
So what White said, like that question that he got a week in advance.
Yeah, and they probably worked through that.
And that was the crappiest answer he could have given. But because it's just so like all over the place and it's not terribly well thought out, like just write something. Like I don't expect, you know, Marvel to give me an honest, you know, one-faced, like this is the truth reaction.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody should at this point. It's just like, yeah, we get it, but like, don't say no in a 20-pound bag. Like it's like, no, she wasn't supposed to do that. Also, I don't even know if like you should be saying no.
Yeah,
you know, like I think you should be like, well, you know, Hickman had his plans, we have our plans, and we're really excited about the direction we're going in. Like that's all you have to say.
Yeah.
So, so the last two books we're talking about.
Yeah.
The Death of the Justice League and Amazing Spider-Man #1.
Okay, where do you want to start?
You know, let's talk about Spider-Man. No, let's talk about Justice League because there's something interesting going on with Justice League.
Okay. And I read this one.
I know you did. That's
because I haven't read Justice League.
Yeah. In forever.
Since Snyder was on it.
Yeah. Well, you did read some Justice League where you read the backups of them.
Yeah, a little bit, but then I was like, I can't keep buying this book just to read those backups. I couldn't justify that cost. So I haven't been reading that, and I didn't read Incarnate either. So I was like, this will be an interesting test if I can follow along. Now I did have you talking about it. So what could I follow along? Yes. Well enough that I was just like, okay, whatever.
You must have loved it because Pariah is the main villain of this
hated
issue.
That so much, and I have so many questions because like I was under the impression about Pariah's backstory, and Josh Williams says something else.
What's that?
I said I was under one impression for Pariah's backstory, and Josh Williamson says something else.
Yes, Williamson. Well, it's funny. Josh and I just had a show of Elseworlds Exchange that will be coming out tomorrow, in which we talk all about this issue, and we do talk about Pariah quite a bit, actually,
Okay,
and his
great.
motivations. He's coming at it from the perspective of Pariah's like of what you get from Pariah in Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is that like he was like stuck in the machine
Hmm.
and then cursed by the Monitor after 1,000 years to be immortal and to appear at the junction point of every crisis to bear
Yeah.
witness.
Yeah. But I thought when I read this that they harkened back to something that they would later change, I think, where it was like he thought that it was the waves of his machine that like because on his planet there was like a prophecy that said like, oh hey, like if you ever look into the multiverse, it's
Yeah.
gonna destroy your planet, right? So like never do that. And he was just like, like I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yep.
So like he jumps in his machine and he goes and he does that. And like there was a wave that like emanated out and it destroyed his planet and he watched it happen and he was like, oh, it was all my fault. And then later on it was like, no, actually it was the anti-monitor who was attracted to you doing that and came and destroyed your planet.
Yes.
So is it that or is it the wave? Because it was
I
like he was like, it's my fault. And I'm like, I mean, yes, but
I think
no.
that they retconned it. I think they retconned it before Williamson got a hold of it, where it's like it was the wave, and then they explained it was the anti-monitor.
Yeah, and it was, and that is exactly what happened. But it in the book, it seemed like they were indicating it was the wave and not the anti-monitor. But I guess not. Anyway, I hate Pariah.
I know. But now it's funny because like we were talking about how he's a whiner and he cries a lot. Williamson doesn't agree, but I will say that he is, and he like that he's you know, if you look at the 5 stages of grief, you know, and before he's like he was in sadness, and so at this point in the Dark Crisis he is in anger, where he's like, no one's going to listen to me. I've watched, like, I know how to fix this. And so I'm going to take control of the great darkness and I'm going to end this world.
Fix what?
The problem.
What problem?
You know, the problem of me.
Of you being alive?
Yeah.
Because like, so here's my problem with him. It's not that he's a whiny crybaby. I mean, he is, and he is even in this. The fact is, like, Pariah is the most selfish character I think I've ever met.
Yes,
like he's just the most selfish character. And honestly, because I just finished doing War of the Gods, I'm like, this is just almost what like happened in War of the Gods, except Pariah wasn't directly behind it.
Yeah.
But like it's, you know, Hecate taking control or telling Cersei, like, hey, we're gonna remake the world and like whatever. And instead it's the darkness telling like Pariah, hey, we're gonna do this thing. But in that, Pariah was there, and Pariah was like, you know, I could warn Cersei that they're going to try to fix this, and then I don't have to, I could cease to be. And wouldn't that be amazing? And so they had to basically put him on watch where they're like, dude, do not screw us.
Yeah,
do not screw us.
That's what this is. But
except he's got more agency.
Yes.
Like Pariah has more agency in this.
Yep.
And it just makes him like worse. He has not changed at all.
No.
He is the same character. He is still a little bitch, and I hate him.
That's right. That's what it is. But it's also like he's a relic of the crisis, and so we're paying him off. So
because he deserves it. He needs he needs that.
Well, like, why isn't he, like, you know, why isn't he a big bad of the DC universe? Like, how come he's just relegated to being like this chode?
Because he's like a shit watcher.
Yeah, that's
all he is. He's just a shitty watcher. Like, he just goes to places. He's like, I can't interfere. I'm just real sad.
Yeah, that's right. So in this you know, you have to read Justice League Incarnate to really understand, but like even then you don't. I mean, like the opening
pages, didn't, because like this book to me read like an old DC book where it was like, here's what you need to know. I actually don't have time to tell you about it, but like this is kind of what you need to know what's going on.
Yes.
And now we have to go fight.
And it did. That's exactly what happens. Yeah. And so they do. So like all of the everyone you like from the Justice League is plucked from where they need to be, which includes like the runs they're in right now, you know. Jeff Thorne had what's it called? John Stewart just got like the Godstorm, and it's boom, take him over there, take him directly from that run, put him right over here. You know, Superman got PKJ is like doing, PKJ is doing Superman stuff. Nope, just take him over here.
Admittedly, I loved seeing John have that much power. I really did. I really enjoyed the hell out of that. Yeah,
no, it was cool. And then he dies.
Yeah.
But you know, like this book is supposed to get your attention. The idea of this book is the reason why Justice League 75 is called the death of the Justice League is to shake the audience awake and say, we're doing an event I think, and this is nothing to do with my conversation with Josh or even like, anything. I believe that lately, and when I say lately, I mean the last, like, after 2 crappy years of pandemic bullshit and an overuse / reliance on metal-based events, people have grown sick, weary of events, and they're less likely to be swept up in it. And I think that that's what this is trying to wake us out of, where it's like, I'm doing this thing, and it's not like gonna be like Grant Morrison, where or aping off of Grant Morrison, where it's like, no, it's about like it's not about comics or about the human condition. Like, this thing is getting you into a love letter to what it means to be a fan of the DC universe.
Okay, so like here's the problem I have with that. And maybe it's just because I didn't read anything leading up to it, but you know what? I don't think most people did. If they'd picked this up, they probably didn't read Justice League Incarnate, but I'll be honest.
Based on the numbers, there's no way on earth that most people who read this also read Justice League Incarnate.
There was a moment in this book that I like, I'm looking at the art in the book, and immediately I was just like, okay, cool. It's like everything. It felt like everything that has happened before. And like, and I'll be honest, like that did not hit me in the right way at all. I was like, all right, yay, another thing with Earths and they're all in the same place in the sky. And okay.
Yeah.
Like
the fact that we had like we had a multiversal, we have 2 multiversal metal based events.
Yeah.
But they were dark multiverse. It wasn't the multiverse. So it's different. Except that we also raised Earth to we raised the multiverse to the ground, and then a golden Wonder Woman punched the progenitor of the multiverse in the face. It's like, it's hard to snap back to that.
It really is. And I don't blame Williamson for wanting to do what you're saying he might be wanting to do here, but like it didn't look like it in this issue, and it just felt like yet another thing. And like when you're saying like it's not meant to feel like Morrisonian, but hey, Captain Carrot's in it, and it's not meant to feel like it came before it. But
Justice League Incarnate is straight up a love letter to multiversity,
right? But like it makes you think of all of these things, which immediately made me more event fatigued.
Yeah, that's fair.
I get wanting to pay them off, but like. I feel like we didn't. I know we didn't. It feels like we just did this.
I know.
And like, Diana just got back, kind of.
I know. But
and I'm like,
yeah.
And she was literally in the middle of a different event.
I know.
I think that's
but nobody's reading that event anyway, so who cares?
But you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh my god. Like, I don't know. That was just my first issue read on that. Like,
yes.
I was immediately like, okay.
No, and that's totally that. Like, I get that feeling, and I definitely had shades of that. But one of the things that I think was absent from those other things we talked about versus this was character moments.
Yeah.
By the way, Death of Justice League, number 75 is written by Josh Williamson with art by Rafa Sandoval. I think Sandoval does a great job of depicting some like really cool stuff.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of cool stuff in there. There's a couple weak panels for me here or there, which I don't want to say was inexcusable, but like I feel like for something this big, like every panel should be tight.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Every page, every panel needs to be tight for this book to work. And I don't know. I just almost fell off my desk. I'm not saying I'm not going to read this because I have, at least knowing from you that like, that Josh has a lot of passion for this. So it's like, I want to give it another shot, but like, I don't know if I would keep going with this, if I would care enough, because it's just like, okay, cool. Like when this is all over, like you guys will just let me know, like the comic, like DC will just let me know where we're going to be at. And, and then we just have to wait for the next phase. And that's just kind of what I've gotten into this mindset of, where it's like, hey, here's a big thing that happens, and then there's going to be upheaval, and then there's going to be like a period of time where we have like maybe some stability, but then there's going to be another thing that happens where there's going to be more upheaval.
Yeah,
And it's like,
you just described the Scott Snyder era of Justice League. Like that is literally the end of that's Dark Knight's metal. That's the totality. Like that's what that is. That's exactly what that is. And the problem is when you do an over reliance on events, you take the wind out of the sails of something that might actually like, deserve your attention.
right.
And I think that like in the case of this, there's a lot of meta reading and a lot of like fans who just want to read this kind of stuff will be satisfied and enjoy it.
Right.
Fans who would like smaller stories are not going to get what they want out of this because it's not, they will probably get a lot of that out of the tie-ins because, and when I say tie-ins, I mean like one issue spinoffs of the Dark Crisis, which they just announced today, which I'm stoked for, by the way, because of what the idea, because like in comparison, Convergence blew,
right,
but you also got like Wolfman doing a Titans ending. You got John Kent Superboy out of a Lee Weeks book. Like there were a lot of, and I think Jurgens wrote that one, where it's like you got a lot of like these spin-off books that like did what you wanted or gave you these moments that like maybe you were never going to get in Convergence. I don't want to compare Dark Crisis to Convergence because I haven't read Dark Crisis, but I can tell you like I think I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, listen, I don't think that I believe you when you say that you're looking forward to this, and that is enough for me to go out and continue trying it. But
right.
I'm just saying I also get the reader who's like kind of done.
Oh yeah,
with,
no,
like every like the solution to getting interest from readers sometimes is just like, well, just literally just pull the foundation out of the house and just see what happens.
Yes.
Like what rooms
absolutely.
are left? Like, oh, okay, we'll deal with that for right now. And it's like,
yeah.
I know that death metal didn't come out like last year.
Right, but it really feels like
it really feels like that.
And I think that's because of the pandemic. I think it's just because we had the gap year.
And I just cannot shake that feeling at all. Yeah. And so like, I'm just like, okay. And and I think because it's dealing with a lot of the same, not all the same ideas, but some same ideas. And like, listen, a crisis is always going to deal, not always, but often going to deal with a multiversal issue, right?
It shouldn't. Well, like yes, that is what they
often.
Are. Yeah, that's what they're about. That's what they're about.
That's what they are about. And so it's like you kind of know what you're getting into. But this first issue, like this issue, this like launching point, that's like, hey, here we go. Next thing is going to be this other thing, right? Like there was no hype. It was just like, okay.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like for me, I think people are waiting for stability, and I think they're waiting for like, no one's. I think that I hope that people are reading Death of Justice League and leading into Dark Crisis, and they're reading it as an event and not as a page 2/3 of the way through a book or a third of the way through the book, hoping that like this time everything is not going to end happily ever after and your heroes are going to retire. Like that's not going to happen ever in your life. So like,
right.
These are the stories, and it's like, it's you either enjoy that kind of experience or you don't, it's like, it's like being a Spider-Man fan. Like if you're surprised that like they're going to redo the status quo or they're going to retread, like, then you either are new to comics or you're a glutton for punishment because like it's gonna happen again.
Additionally, I do want to point out too that I think some of the feeling that I had, I'm only going to speak for myself because I can't speak for anybody else. I can't speak to anyone else who's listening to this right now or any other person who read this book, right? Yeah. But so I think it's also just as of late.
Yep.
And like as of late could be within the past several years.
Right.
It doesn't feel like there's been a lot of commitment to any one initiative. And so I think that's also in the back of my head because it was like, we did Rebirth, right? And there was like the Rebirth era, and I was like, that was super fun. That was neat for some people.
Mhm.
And then we were going to do Doomsday Clock, but no, we're not actually going to do Doomsday Clock. We're going to do, what was the other thing we did instead?
The Button.
No, we did Doomsday Clock, but then whatever happened at Doomsday Clock wasn't canon. We're like, no, not that.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
And then we did Metal, and in
Mhm.
there we're like, we were also going to do Future State, but then we didn't.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's just like it doesn't feel like we're ever going to just land.
You're never gonna land. That's
Damn
comic
it!
books. Here's the
I
thing.
know, no.
There-
I know it's comic books, but listen, after we did Convergence, which, listen, whatever,
Like it or leave it. Yeah.
like it or leave it, it led to Rebirth, right?
Yes.
And like I felt like for that, even though it wasn't a super long period of time, there was some stability.
Yeah. No,
You know, and
Rebirth.
again,
that's why
like it or
people are
leave it,
sad. That's why they're sad people that Rebirth ended. Because
I know. And like again, like it or leave it, if you liked those books or not, there was consistency. And
Yes.
it didn't feel like, you know, like characters were going to change and people were going to die and stories were going to take turns. And maybe you
Yep.
didn't like what was going on, but like, you know what? At the end of the day, the company was behind it, and here we go.
That's right. That's right. That's because there is absolutely no leadership at DC Comics.
Well, and that sucks. And like, and I don't think that that's fair to hold against Josh's book, but I got to tell you, I'm carrying all of that baggage with me going into this.
Right. So like, don't be surprised if like there's going to be like criticism or maybe like less enthusiasm.
Yeah. Or like not everyone's going to be like, woo, I'm on board for this and I can't wait to see what happens, because I'm more like, I mean, something's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, there is no initiative unless you have been reading pretty much Williamson's run. Like if you start at Infinite Frontier and go to this, there has been consistency. The problem is there's also been upheaval and tumult throughout the rest of the line. And so as a result, you're like, you know, okay, you're saying that we're going in one direction, but like I can see
that we're not doing that.
But I think you're also colored by the idea that it's not just that you can see we're not being stable. It's because I've been burned before.
There is part of that. No, there's sure. I absolutely can admit that. And that's not something I should bring in to a new relationship with, like, you know, a new crisis and a new like person at the helm of that crisis. I shouldn't bring that with it. But I am.
But you should, because that's how you get
me.
But that's how you get discernment, right? Like that's how you hold these books to some like expectation of credibility and quality, where you're like, yo, acknowledge that I have been like thrown through the ringer here. And it's, you know, it's like people criticizing Marvel for like only catering to new readers, where it's like, yo, number one, they ain't coming. Number two, we're the only ones who are here and we're getting screwed.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I think I think it's just, if you're following DC, you know, like, listen, you're either just reading the books and you're enjoying the stories, and that's fine. There's literally nothing wrong with that. Like, good on you. Enjoy what you enjoy.
Right.
Or you're another type of like reader who examines kind of what's going on around it as well. And DC's been making a lot of choices. Like, they brought Bendis in, they paid a lot of money, and then they just couldn't make that work. And it's like, and I'm telling you, it's like all these things are just kind of like landing here. Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
A crisis should be exciting. Right? Yes. A crisis should be something that's exciting. It's an opportunity to clean slate if they want to, and to kind of start something new. Yes. And I'm just not feeling right now that there's going to be a commitment to this crisis.
That's fair. That's a fair thing to feel, right? Because we haven't. Like, the only time, like the last time that we had this, the only reason why things stuck was because there was management at the top that had a commitment to a line and a plan, and creators who were either in on that plan or had the kind of like cachet and braggadocio to make it stick, where like Scott Snyder shows up and is like, this is how it's gonna be,
right?
And you'd better be strapped in for the totality of it, because I'm not gonna stop, and they're gonna pay me whether you like it or not at the end of the day, because also you're buying it. And I think that, you know, I think it eventually, you know, you reach a point, you hit a wall of like secrets of the DC universe that you can reveal. And I think the biggest issue was, of course, like the disparity between Snyder and Johns. It was
Oh,
John's
sure.
going in one direction and Snyder going in
They're
another
going
direction.
yeah, but like that's where it started, and then it just like DC's been bought and sold as well. Like and new management's coming in and out. People were let go. People were brought on.
People who you didn't even know were there were the reason DC was holding water in the first place. And so it's like you're watching. You're. It's like actually, it's not unlike YouTube where it's like you're watching creators create and establish lore and their like and their brand on the fly. Like you're watching it in real time happening, and so it's like that's not going to work. But you know what? Hopefully you'll stick around next week because you like some element of the brand we're producing here. DC should not feel like that because this book is also about legacy, and it's about and it's about history, and so it's like you can't sell me a story about history, legacy, and like and the camaraderie of the DC universe, and also be a house divided against itself.
I agree, and maybe again, this is my own taste right now, but like I find that some of the most successful things coming out of DC right now is story that had nothing to do with the main continuity. Like the Black Label stuff is some of the strongest stuff that they're putting out.
Yeah,
things that are not tied directly into it because it feels stable and it feels like a story that the creators can just tell themselves. And like honestly, good on any creators working over there under what feels like chaotic management.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who have to tell stories within continuity. Like, holy crap. Like, hats off to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you also you have that. Yeah. No, it's true.
But all I'm saying is, like, I know I really should not be bringing this into this crisis.
No.
And, like...
You deserve to, as a discerning reader, bring your opinions and your beliefs to the fore so that you can, like, hold it accountable, and you can like also determine for yourself whether you are like sometimes you can see the strings, but you are so entertained by the performance it doesn't matter, right? Like it's why like Jurassic Park, right? Everybody loves Jurassic Park, and everybody talks about how the effects for Jurassic Park, why are Jurassic Park's effects so much better than some effects today? And it's like they're not. Some of them are, or at the very least they are, because they're doing a blend, because they're because an expert filmmaker was making it, and because they cared, and because there's like a hodgepodge of ideas. There's puppetry, there's CG, but even the stuff that looked great then that doesn't look so great now, you don't care because it's Jurassic effing Park, right? Like it's not because it's Jurassic Park 3 and you're like, you can, admittedly the pterodactyl is better than like the running dinosaurs in Jurassic Park 1, but you don't care because JP3 sucks. And it's like when the story is engaging and when the performance is authentic, then you care. Even if you can see the seams or like, the window dressing isn't quite up to snuff or it isn't at the same level. I think that unfortunately, like, it's a shame that like Dark Crisis is coming on the heels of the failure of 5G, the lukewarm reception of Future State, the ambiguity.
There was an entire forgotten event between Future State and Death Metal. You did it. It was what was it? Winter?
Oh, Endless Winter.
Endless Winter.
Yep.
That was an event that was shoved in there.
Yep.
Metal was
a fucking mess.
Yeah, like
but a sales juggernaut. And that's the thing.
That's
Death Metal sold.
I know.
Death Metal, the sequel. Like
I know.
The one with Dr. Manbattan. That sold. That sold better. That was not going to be as big as it was, and it's even bigger because it sold. And that shit sold.
I know. No, I know.
And like, and I will say that just to dovetail into that, Death of the Justice League sold. It sold great.
No, and I'm sure they're loving it, and I'm sure they're living behind. Like they're just like, yes.
Yeah, and like here's the funny thing. I actually just saw this today, just a few minutes before we started shooting. Bleeding Cool has a list, and they were like, Amazing Spider-Man buries Death of Justice League. And I was like, oh yeah? Because when I went to the comic book store, I could get this.
Yeah.
and I live in a major metropolitan area.
Yeah. Now it could just be that more retailers didn't purchase as many Death of the Justice
And that's a
League
very interesting
because,
theory,
like,
right?
I mean, like, to be fair, I picked up that copy for you, and it was at a store that has decided that they're not going to carry DC anymore, and that's a whole nother conversation for a
That's
whole nother time.
yes,
But
that's
like,
true.
so like that store didn't sell any Justice League.
No, that's true.
So I don't know. Like they probably did. It's probably a disparaging amount of like how many were ordered. But I mean, you have a number one versus a death. Historically speaking, both have done well in markets, right? And they just happen to come out the same week. Probably would have been better for them to have split them up a little more so and maybe not had them come out in the same week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I know it's going to be all about sales for them, and I'm sure they're very happy. But I mean, another thing I like, and again, I think this is a conversation for another time, but talking about their whole commitment to a crisis, I know they've got a new parent company, and I know they're looking at DC itself and like being like, what's going on here? What are we doing?
Well, their
right?
approach to like TV and stuff is so like I'm fascinated, and I can't wait to see where it
Oh
goes.
yeah,
because,
but like I'm worried about after we had Metal, we're supposed to launch into 5G. We're into future state instead, right? They had this whole plan, and then it was like, oh crap, there was a pandemic, so like other mitigating factors are in there.
Yeah,
but I'm like, we're gonna have a new status quo post this, and I don't know what it's gonna be.
Right. You mean this?
Yeah. Post Dark Crisis.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is after Dark Crisis. I don't know what the future holds. I honestly, like,
if it's a crisis, typically there's usually a new status quo.
Yeah, but not really. Not anymore. I mean, look at fucking death metal, right? Like after death metal, they remade the whole goddamn multiverse, and it's exactly the same as it was before it started. But honestly, I'm like, I don't even like the hype I'm hearing for Dark Crisis, which is, admittedly, not the same.
Yeah,
it's not proportionately the same. Like I'm not looking at Dark Crisis as a stepping stone to the new period of DC. Okay. I'm looking at it as an event, like as a story.
Okay, because like to me,
and I know it isn't. Like
seems to be like a fan of the old guard, and the old guard when they did a crisis, it changed shit.
Yeah. Well, maybe the problem is he can't.
I mean, that could be
he's not an editor. He's not the editor in chief. He's not a publisher. He's just here's a story. I'm just writing stories that they're letting me write. And if you read it from here to here, you'll get a complete thorough story. I mean, honestly, like if you look at like his and that starts all the way with Infinite Frontier. When Infinite Frontier launched, and they were like, hey, like Infinite Frontier, and you were like, what is that? And like, I don't know. Like there was no real authentic explanation as to like what Infinite Frontier is, because especially when we were conditioned to expect that like eras had names,
right?
Like we just got out of Rebirth, and it's like Infinite Frontier. What is that? And then it was like it's a book you can buy. Like what a book? Like
I guess the reason why I assumed, other than the word crisis being in there, is because you went and called this the Death of the Justice League, which either means you're just going to bring them back immediately, or something has to change,
right?
And you're going to live with it for a little bit.
No, I don't think there's any change.
But that's even more frustrating, because then it's just like, aha, the cash grab. Got it.
Right. I mean, on one hand, yeah. Then on the other hand, since like if this was a outright cash grab, I think that it would not go into the next thing. It would not go into it. Death of the Justice League it's not necessarily just like, it's not just we're going to kill off Wally West. We're not killing off the Death of Superman.
Right.
Even though Death of Superman did dovetail into a new era of Superman.
That's what I'm saying.
Unprecedented sales.
There was a period of time though where he was just dead.
Well, yeah, but like you also they immediately fell into Funeral for a Friend, and then the Four Supermen.
Yeah,
and then
but like
that led into another, and then that
still wasn't there. Like the book was still coming out, but the other characters were taking the role for a little bit. Yeah. DC, take the wheel. Here we go.
Yeah.
So like that's what I'm saying. Like either we're going to do something like that, or by the end of this, it's going to be like, I mean, like, yeah, we called it Death of Justice League because we wanted you to buy the book, but like they're just going to come back like immediately, and it's like, what's the point then?
Right. No, that's fair. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think the issue's fun, and I think that it's like necessary. I mean, obviously, it's a prelude to the Dark Crisis and where that's
Yeah.
going. But again, like I'm not looking at it, and I think it's just maybe it's because I had to recondition my own approach to crises because,
Yeah.
like, at the end of the day, at the when you look at like I remember a time when there was only one crisis.
Right.
And then I remember Wizard Magazine being roped in by DC editorial and like marketing, where they were like, Crisis was 10 years ago. We should do another one. Like,
Right.
not we need to do another one because things are messed up or we need to do this, that, and the other. It was just, well, wouldn't it be fun to do like an anniversary style crisis
Mhm.
where we just celebrated the fact that we had a crisis? Because at the end of the day, Crisis on Infinite Earths succeeded.
Yeah.
Like, it succeeded in terms of it collapsed the multiverse, it streamlined everything. You got Burns' Superman, you got Miller's Batman, and the rest. And ultimately, they've been trying to clean up the rest since what? New 52. Because, like, what's Hawkman? You know, Zero Hour, which is the second crisis, is an attempt to clean up what they thought was broken and broke it more because there wasn't really a story there.
Right.
They were doing it because they were like, wanted to pat themselves on the back and do a 10-year victory lap. And then after doing that, they broke the dam.
Yeah.
Now crises are not precious. Now you can do them whenever you want and in shorter intervals.
Right. So like, that's why I feel like there needs to be weight to this.
Yeah.
And again, like, you talked to Josh, I didn't. Like, did he decide to call it that, or did the marketing team decide to call it that? Because like, you can never forget they're a business. At the heart, you've got creators and then the business that runs like the creators in their own way. Like, the creators get to do what they need to do and what they want to do to a point, but at the end of the day, like, marketing decides that listen, we're gonna hype up the fact that it's the death of the Justice League.
Oh yeah. Well, you mean, okay. Well, when it comes to Dark Crisis, he is not. I didn't ask him about like where it came from, but I can tell you that like Dark Knight's Metal was originally called the Dark Crisis.
Right. Okay.
Then, after that, they had references to it in Tales from the Dark Multiverse, where Tempest Fugonaut was going through the Dark Multiverse.
I know how you love him.
I know he's one of my favorite characters, and apparently, he's dead. In that Action Comics book, they killed him, and I was like, "Was that actually him?" And that's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Oh."
Well, maybe he can get a Black Lantern ring.
I mean, here's the thing: like, there's a race of Fugonauts. You could just say that wasn't Tempest; that was another Fugonaut. but like, Fugonaut talked about the coming of a dark crisis,
right?
And then like they
shelved. He needed his champions.
Yes, he needed his champions.
So maybe the Justice League didn't die. Maybe they're the champions. Tempest is like, oops.
I'm a
ghost.
I don't know if I could say this. I will anyway.
Don't say anything.
That just Tempest Fugonaut is probably not going to be in the Dark Crisis.
I'm sorry.
I
know you wanted that.
I've been pitching this forever. I really wanted to see Tempest Fugonaut show up in the middle of this big event with like Eradicator Superwoman and half alive, half black, half white Lantern Sinestro, and Hecate Wonder Woman and a bunch of other and Dark Nightfall Batman and all this stuff and then get Omega beamed. We're not going to get that, I don't think. And I'm really sad about that.
I'm sorry.
Because that means I'm not going to get my Tempest Fugonaut statue from DC Direct or whatever.
Right. Maybe Sideshow will make a hell of a Fugonaut.
I want one so bad. I might spend the money to get a big ass stupid Tempest Fugonaut statue. Because I want him on the set. I want that monument to whatever. Anyway, the Dark Crisis came from that. I think it's the same with Amazon's Attack. Amazon's Attack was originally going to be an event that they wrote down, then they didn't do that, and then they went, well, we still have the name, do it again over here. So it's like they reuse names all the time.
Oh yeah, but
but it is connected because the Great Darkness is the main looming
right
problem.
And again, this is probably just a conversation for another time. But there is power in name, and if you call it a crisis, and you don't want crisis to just be a dime a dozen, and maybe you want to go back to them being something precious, then you need to do something with this.
Yeah, and I'm sure they will. I mean, like the fact is, like, I think there is something. I mean, you got Doomsday and and Neron and Necron and like Eclipso and like all in one room being puppeted by the Great Darkness, which Pariah thinks he's. I mean, like, this is a big deal, and there's going to be like huge ramifications in this story, Dark Crisis.
Right,
but probably,
but just here.
But just here.
Unless
I mean, like, it'll end, and then like people will be like, "Whoa, that was crazy. What's next?"
Okay,
I mean, that's what I expect, because that's every event now.
I know, and like it doesn't affect anything else. Presumably, we'll see. We don't know, and I know that for sure. But all I'm saying is, this issue just felt like, okay, another event, another thing that feels like the last things.
Yeah, but at the same time, for me, like the books that I've been like, I've been like, good. Like, I hated Justice League. Like, that book was unreadable.
I know you were not a fan. I know.
And I don't care about like Conan, Gladiator, Superman. I don't read,
I should read that. I should pick that up because I like Superman and I like Conan. So
you do. You might love it. I don't know. I don't know what your opinion of Philip Kennedy Johnson is.
I don't think I've read enough of his work to have an opinion.
Yeah, I read his Alien book and I hate it like so much, but it could just be because of Laraka.
I think that's exactly what it is.
I mean, like, and when I say I think, I mean that's exactly what it is. I just can't. But yeah, he is nice though, like as a person. Like, so yeah, and I don't care. I'm like, I was, when I don't like something or I don't like the direction of the thing, I don't read it out of anger.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, Superman should be like what I liked Superman's Tomasi run, and it's like, well, how about Bendis's run? I'm like, no, and then I don't read it, and then it turns out afterwards, they were like, okay, we're still not going to do that. Actually, we're going to make Superman go away, and it's like, I'm even less interested in that.
No, I know, I know.
But yeah,
I don't think we expected to have such a big conversation about this.
No, but I did enjoy it. Like,
yeah, me too.
I dug it. Green Arrow has the standout moments in that issue. Death of Justice League.
Yes.
He's our ride along character.
Well, okay, here's what's funny for me is like there's like that moment you see it coming a mile away.
Oh yeah, you knew it was
like
coming.
He says
when he leaves, when he goes with Canary.
Well, yeah, when
like,
he goes, but like when he says his line where he's just like, I do what I always do in these situations, and I was like, before I even turn the page, I'm like, die?
Yeah.
You're a dude.
Yeah.
You're a dude with arrows, and I love you to death, and I love your gumption, but like you're a rich guy with arrows.
Yeah, but Batman's there too.
Yeah, but Batman has a superpower all his own.
Yeah, well, Batman doesn't get a character that gets like that kills him. So
no, he doesn't do any of that. But I was like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah,
good. I love his heart. I love Ollie's heart. He's like, I gotta go. She's going, I'm going. We're going together.
And then he gets his head caved in by Doomsday.
That does happen to him.
Which is pretty awesome
from time to time.
And I gotta tell you, I guess Ollie's skeleton is weaker than like Blue Beetles and Booster Golds, because Doomsday does the same maneuver to a punch. No, it's
he's
what's
powered
funny
by
is
the darkness, but the darkness.
No, and they're at half capacity. They're at like limited capacity, so it's like, oh, okay,
yeah,
all right, you got me. Anyway, I enjoyed it because it's like, for me, I think, and it could be meta reading. It could just be because I'm like, I know the intent, and I think that's hard to tell with most modern comics, where you're like, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to get my money, or are you trying to actually tell me an engaging story? And I think because I know where Josh's heart is at, I'm like, I'm down.
I think Williamson wants to tell an engaging story, but I think that
it's not his fault. Like, it's been clouded.
It's like the Millennium Falcon's hyperdrive. It's no one's fault.
Yeah,
like,
no,
you think you fixed it.
It's just you keep hot wiring the fucking thing.
or the Imperials have like, done something to it. It's not my fault. My guys
I can't
fixed it.
believe that. By the way, we watched Empire again recently, and I can't believe the Imperials like fixed it just to deactivate. It was like, that when the Imperials got in, they were like, so what are we supposed to do? Well, Lord Vader says you have to deactivate the harbor drive. It's not working. I don't even know what this is supposed to be. And so they
it's just filled with Wookiee fur.
Right, like they would have like Vader had to like delay his trip. Like he got there and they're like, we had to rebuild the hyperdrive from scratch in order to deactivate it. So you need to like go get a shawarma or something. You have to go down to like the gas mines and just walk around the block a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna take us a while. Because R2's just like, he turns the thing.
And it works.
And it's like, no. That thing wasn't working before they got it. They had to fix it and then break it.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Cowdery says, was pleasantly surprised by Amazing Spider-Man 1. Despite my excitement for J.R. Jr.'s return, the leaks and Wells' writing during Beyond had me skeptical. However, I enjoyed the new issue a lot. Yes, I'm excited to talk about it.
We are going to talk about that. I didn't read this one, so it'll be more one-sided.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Wilbert Robertson, do you think anyone at Marvel Retreat is mentioning aliens or predators? Which Disney franchise do you think will use them first in Star Wars or Marvel? Alien has a book right now. There's rumors that what's it called? That Ridley Scott show is going to have xenomorphs in it. So I don't know. Predator is getting a book that was made like a year and a half or 2 years ago. This July. So Predator is going to continue. I think that if Marvel was smart, they would have one-shots or 3-issue minis where it was Predator versus, and you just have Predator versus Punisher, Predator versus Spider-Man, and just Predator versus Wolverine, and just do that. I want that so bad. But Marvel will get Predator before Star Wars does.
Okay.
What's it called? MMN.
Wait, you know what I want more than that?
What?
Disney should build
LV-426?
No, well, yeah, but I was gonna say the ship from Alien.
The Nostromo.
Yeah, the Nostromo. I was gonna say the Sulaco, and I was like, that's from Aliens. What the hell is
the other one?
Yeah, I know it's the other one.
No, I'm saying like that's great. It's like, oh no, you got the ships confused.
But like I came up with the lesser. I'm like Sulaco, and I'm like,
yeah, everyone knows Nostromo. Not many people talk about Sulaco, so that's really awesome.
But they should build the Nostromo like a little just like a thing. Like they've got Muppets. Like the little Muppet World area, like a little place where you can like just go into the ship.
You know what I think is more likely because of how like humid and horrible it is in Disney World?
Yeah.
They could make like, is it Hadley's Hope? Like the little like compound that is LV-426. And so it's like, but just the entrance, like where you go in and then it's like all torn and ruined and like,
No, you make it when it's like going. Don't make it all torn and ruined. That way people can be there and working. You can have you can go to their crappy eatery and
commissary and get like Weyland-Yutani's slop. That'd be friggin' amazing.
This is why we're not Imagineers.
Yeah, because we were like, this is great. Bankrupted.
Oops. Well, we had a good time.
says, I think Amazing Spider-Man 1 was an incredibly intriguing issue. For a run that will most definitely be highly controversial as it goes on. Marvel's strategy is not to piss off too many people right off the bat. I disagree with you on that one, my friend, in terms of Marvel's strategy, because I think Marvel has a very different strategy. Cat Lawyer, speaking of meta reading, I think that's why I haven't been able to get into main Spider-Man books. I can't stop seeing weird agendas about shifting status quos. I just want a story with character arcs.
I think people really want you to talk about that Spider-Man issue.
I don't know why. It's not like it's in the title or on the thumbnail or anything. Kane's World. Sal, you just nailed it why I stopped buying comics. I just feel like I'm in a circle with no growth. And F that, no more money for you except for ComicPop. Oh, thanks, Kane. Listen, man. That's why you should get into Black Label books and miniseries.
Yeah, trust me. Most of my DC pulls right now are Black Label, and it's not on purpose. It's just like I see the creative teams, I hear the pitches, and I'm just like, I'm intrigued. I have to know more. Like, like I'm reading Catwoman: Lonely City, and I'll be honest, like I read the first issue and I slept on that second issue, and then I read 2 and 3 back to back, and I cannot wait for the next one. Jock on Dark Knight. One Dark Knight. That's One Dark Knight. Amazing. I'm loving Suicide Squad Blaze. Like,
yep. The Rogues. Great.
The Rogues. Yeah.
Or rogues. Yeah. Dex Baker is a super sticker. Thank you very much, Dex, for your super
Thank
sticker.
you.
We're getting into Spider-Man, I promise. I just want to make sure everybody is acknowledged before we wrap up, because you're here for that. Anarchic Arachnid. I wish Conan Gladiator Superman was Connor. I think it would have been better. I think people would have been more like down.
That would have been kind of cool. Like that's where he went. Like that's
Yeah,
what the
like
story is.
if that was retconned, where it's like, no, Connor. Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yes, Connor be cool. I would have rather been like, no, John. Yeah, because I think you were thinking the same thing, where it's like John's teenage years were spent being a gladiator or something.
No, it would be kind of cool if it was Connor. Like well, yes.
Yeah, where'd he go?
Admittedly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like admittedly speaking, where like John's teenage years, like,
Yeah.
goes off with the old man. He's like, boot. Good
Right?
luck. Live through this gladiator world. But like, no, where'd Connor go? He's like pissing vinegar and
yeah, that'd be kind of dope.
gets himself into trouble, and I don't know.
Dan Dragon, hey guys, speaking of miserable stories, Tiffany, have you heard of the manga Chainsawman or Zeta Man? I feel like they're sequels to Devilman. What are your thoughts?
I have not heard of them. I'm like, somebody loaned me something. No, it's not that. Okay. Yeah. No, but I'll check it out.
Ray Farr, last status quo I read was Parker Industries. Ew. It's tough, man. Like, it's tough to be a Spider-Man fan, I'll tell you that. Travis Pagan, Vader versus aliens on a Starship Rebellion versus the Empire, then aliens show up literally the South Pirate ship, but it was Star Wars. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you like that, you should read Death Troopers.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, not the second one.
They made a second. I didn't read the second one. Maybe it's good, but I was
the second was
fine with the first one. Yeah, I was really okay with the first one. Although they did lean a little too heavily on like needing to name drop and like put characters in there. I was like, you didn't really need to do that.
Yeah,
but I get why you did it. I get it.
Exactly. Will.i.am Golden, everyone hated Didio, but with him, he at least steered the ship in a direction, in my opinion. Yeah, no, he did. He did.
I feel kind of bad for the people in charge right now because they also got handed a mess.
Yep.
And
but
like
they also asked for it.
They did ask for the mess, but by the time that they're done unraveling the mess, it'll be time for someone else to take over, and then those people will get credit for the cleanup.
Yeah. David Brault, any thoughts on Tom King's Human Target? I think it got lost after issue 5. I think it's excellent. I think it's a flawless series. Okay, so Amazing Spider-Man #1 from Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. This is the 5th or possibly 6th first issue of Amazing Spider-Man.
No, it's been a few.
It's 5 issues away from issue 900. So of course it's time for us to relaunch the series.
But still legacy.
Yeah, I appreciate that they at least kept the legacy numbers. But yeah, Amazing Spider-Man #1. Obviously it's mired in its last page leaks, which we talked about in the last episode. But let's talk more about the issue itself. The first issue is like establishing, reestablishing, setting up like the status quo. Essentially, like it opens in that like teaser image, which got a lot of people talking, which was Spider-Man's outside of York, Pennsylvania, in a crater, and he like freaks out, and then it says 6 months later, and that's when we're catching up, and basically like Peter is at rock bottom. Everyone's like mad at him. His entire stay at the hospital in the last arc for Beyond. Yeah, Aunt May got foot the bill with that one, and so she had to sell her place and move into a crappy apartment, and she's like, bye, Peter, until you can like talk to me or apologize to me, I'm leaving. So she bails on him. He has to like what's it called? He's dogged by creditors. Randy was left to pay the apartment bill by himself. He had 2 roommates. Boomerang died, and Peter abandoned him, so Randy had to pay like by himself. If you don't remember, Randy Robertson is dating the Beetle, who is the daughter of Tombstone, and that he wants to take it to the next level. He asks Tombstone if he can marry her. Tombstone is down. Tombstone pushes his new plan to take over territories. And he's got a new enforcer in the form of Digger, a Straczynski creation from the old Straczynski run, which also had Romita on pencils. And a lot of people like worship that run, myself included. I loved the Straczynski run. And the Digger arc was awesome and like really fun. Digger is used as an enforcer. He's a low level enforcer in this, which I think is interesting. And basically, Tombstone is in like a turf war. And that's the idea. Tombstone is like set up as, I don't know, the big bad or the new, like, undercurrent antagonist. I feel like we're not too far away from Beyond and the whole like Randy, Beetle, Tombstone, Robbie situation for us to have this. But
Okay.
whatever. Peter tries to talk to Mary Jane. She's hiding from somebody and telling him no. Like, I can't talk to you. I told you not to call me anymore. Yeah. I'm sorry. Digger was another enforcer. He tried to kill Tombstone.
Okay.
Yeah. Tombstone, he's pissed and he's looking for blood. And then the last page reveals that Mary Jane has 2 children with some random guy named Paul. And then there's another last page reveal, which is that Dr. Octopus is being held against his will by an unseen adversary. So it's like, oh, like we're not doing the whole one more day, brand new day. It's only new characters. We're not gonna go with our reinvention. It's just a mixture of like new and old. Here's some stuff. Zeb Wells was one of the architects of the Beyond era, so I guess I understand why like there's some carryover. Overall, if this came out 10 years ago, I think a lot of people would be really excited about it. I think more people would be like down.
Right.
I think if this was like part of the like brand new day period, I think people would be like, whoa, and like would be really, really high on it. That being said, I've heard some really solid, positive reviews of this series or of this issue. And I didn't hate it. Like, I didn't hate it while I was reading it. But I think like Dark, like the death of the Justice League, like that's why I want to talk about both of them, because like they're both mired in meta reading. Like people were sick of Justice League. People were sick of the Beyond era. People were divided on the Spencer era. I think with the Spider-Man thing, it's a little worse because Spider-Man is the highest profile Marvel character. Spider-Man should be doing Batman numbers and he doesn't. And I think it's just because Spider-Man lives or dies based on the creative team. When it comes to this issue and the setup, it's like I have been burned before, and I think a lot of people are just so like ready for stability that even this is stability for them. Where they're like, so he's Spider-Man? Okay, I'll take it. Like, I'm not bagging on Riley. I just mean like, so he's Spider-Man. He's got to play. He has a status quo I can firmly identify that I recognize. Great, I'll take it. Fine. He's fighting bad guys I know. Even better. It's not out of it. It's not going off the rails. It's just he's in New York and he's doing this thing.
Right.
Fine. It's just I think that people are giving this book unnecessary praise because they're sick of it, and I think people are giving Dark Death of Justice League unnecessary crap because they're sick of it. It's like the same thing. Like everyone is just like tired and exhausted by being pulled in multiple directions at the same time by upper management. And it's like, if I believed that those were Mary Jane's children, I would drop this book like I have twice before. When I stopped reading Spencer's run, I stopped reading the Beyond run, but I didn't quit the books. I didn't go like, I hate this, and now under protest is beef burgers. Like I quit when they said Spider-Man that you've been reading for 25 years has been fake. I was like, goodbye. And then I quit again when they were like, the marriage has been undone by the devil. I couldn't handle it. And if I believed for a second that those were Mary Jane's children and that like she secretly had 2 kids with Paul at some weird time in Spider-Man's history that as of yet has never been chronicled, I'd be like, no. And I would quit. And I quit probably forever at this point, because at this point I have way more bills to pay and money to allocate that doesn't involve me spending $6 on a 52-page comic book. But I don't. And the reason I don't is because of meta reading, and it's because I live and breathe. And your options when you have been reading for a long time and you've seen it all and you've done it all and you recognize the inner workings of the industry in some regard, your options are to quit forever or to just take your lumps and be used and get used to the changes and upheaval. Like with Spider-Man, that book, this is a book that Chip Zdarsky wouldn't touch with a 10-meter cattle prod. And the reason is because with Spectacular, he pretty much got to do what he wanted. Kind of. And he's Chip Zdarsky and can do whatever the fuck he wants anyway. Like write Batman. But he knows, and I think him not doing it is telling that this is a committee book. This is a book that is made by committee. It's approved by upper management. And the problem is, with respect to like the Spencer run, I think Spencer, I genuinely believe, and it's a conspiracy theory, but I believe that he skirted by some like hard set, not written down, but still widely known tenets of what it means to have a Spider-Man book because Marvel is lazy and cheap. Marvel is lazy and cheap when it comes to their books and their publishing line. And so it's like, there aren't enough editors and there's not enough oversight. And so I think they were like, Spencer knows what he does. Spencer knows what he's doing. Editors now are just spell checkers. You're fine. And then they went, and then I think somebody like kicked up the flagpole and was like, he's going to undo one more day. And they were like, what? Stop the presses. Nick, is that what you're doing? And he's like, yeah, I set it up for the last 2 years. Like, you knew I was doing that. And they're like, well, you can't anymore. Like, but we're like 10 issues away from the finish line. Well, you have to change it now. And so we did. I genuinely feel that's what happened. I don't know that's what happened. I can say allegedly that's what happened in terms of what I believe. But I think that's where they went. And I think with this one, they were like, Zeb, as long as you don't mind your name being put on a book that is being put together, but you give us the outline, we approve it, and we tell you where we want it to end up. Or at the very least, you tell us where it ends up, and if it aligns with the plan we have, and when I say plan, I don't mean story plan, I mean the plan to keep him within these rigid guidelines, then we're all going to be fine here. And I think that's why I'm like, I'm not worried about it, because at this, on one hand, it's like, yeah, you could give Mary Jane kids and like a lie about what happened in the past, or you could just have like Mary Jane be a mother figure for two characters that when another 40-something writer comes on the book goes, I don't like that at all, and just makes them go away. Like I at this point, I am not in the least like shaken by anything that happened in this book. As it stands, it's a pretty standard by the numbers Spider-Man comic book. Like, this issue is just everyone's mad at Spider-Man. He's isolated and alone, and his entire support network is gone. There's one character who's conspicuously absent from this book, and it's J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh.
J. Jonah Jameson had, always been a anti-Spider-Man, propagandist. And then after the Zdarsky period, like, he became Spider-Man's biggest supporter and knows who he is and like is his number one fan. Is what Peter Parker did 6 months ago so heinous that J. Jonah Jameson will be put back in the bottle?
Oh, interesting.
Who knows? I would probably, if I had to bet money, I would on that, because it's setting things up and putting Spider-Man back into a place that's like more recognizable for older people.
Right.
But at the same time, one more day is over 10 years old. So who are those old readers? Anymore?
Yeah. No, it's true.
What is an older reader? So, it's just this book is it does. I don't know if it earns the last 2 pages in terms of like it being nothing in the book sets up the Mary Jane kids reveal. So clearly that was done as a way of being like, I'd go so far as to suggest, as to believe that they were added last minute and they don't know what to do with that. Like that's what little faith I have.
Well, I don't know, because like
in
that,
them at this point.
we've read plenty of random issues for like GBU where like the last page is like, and this thing, because it's trying to like hook you.
Yes.
That's what that feels like.
It does. Well, and then it has another post-credit scene.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, with Doc Ock, where it's like, who's got
yes.
Doc Ock? But I'm like,
right.
Who cares?
Right.
Like, you know what I've done already? Read the best Doc Ock stories.
That's true. You know, it's
Like-
funny. And I know a lot of people are also talking about the whole Moira thing. And I'm like, the only reason that's probably part of the book is because Zeb Wells was like, I used to write Hellions and I really had a good time with that.
Yeah, I'm not done with X-Men.
I really liked writing Hellions. And like, by the way, it is a good run. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Which is why like I was really hoping he was gonna knock it out of the park with Spider-Man. And I still hope he does, because like I'm like, he's good. Like I really enjoyed that work.
Yeah. Listen, the characters are consistent. They have a clear, distinct voice. The story is intriguing. That first page reveal is like a killer setup, and it does that thing that like that Endgame moment or that snicked moment in Old Man Logan where it's like, you know, Peter Parker's in the middle of a crater. There's probably hundreds or thousands dead. And then it does that double page 6 months later thing where you're like, OMG. Like, you know, there's going to be either a mini series or something to set up that, or maybe probably more like an arc. Just be like, the arc will be like, what did Peter Parker do? And that's the arc. And it'll just tell you what he did and what happened. But, you know, that's a solid premise and it's a solid pitch. And I'm excited to see it. Like I am genuinely concerned or interested in what's going on. You know, but when it comes to this, it's like even the criticism lobbed at it where it's like, Peter's a jerk. He is a jerk. He's a complete dick shit, like in this book. And why? You know, because he's unhappy, because he's a grump. I will say there's whole runs where he's a douchebag.
Yeah.
Like there's tons, you know, not recently, unless you count like, you know, Superior, but there are runs where he's just largely unlikable.
Right.
Whole runs. And or he's like needlessly antagonistic, you know? But it's that's how it goes. And it ebbs and flows, and like, you know, you're gonna hopefully, you know, you're along for the ride. Like I said, like it's a roller coaster, you know, it's like it's all over the place. You know, like if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man to see what happens to him next, then you miss the point of reading Amazing Spider-Man. You know, and so I think it's the antithesis to that Dark Crisis thing, where it's like, well, the Dark Crisis is supposed to set up a status quo. It's a means to an end. But with this, it's like, this is the journey is the reason to read the book.
Right.
I enjoyed Romina's art.
Really?
I think it was a deliberate decision, by the way, to get him on this, because they could have put him on anything, but they want to curry favor. They're like, people have been middling, you know, the Spencer run was divisive. The Beyond run was confusing. This is Spider-Man. Digger's back. They want you to think Straczynski. And Straczynski brought the marriage back. Like, they were married, but they were separated. He brought them back together. They want you to think about that period. They're trying to get you to think of that. Why are they trying to make you think of that? Are there clues? Are there missed opportunities that Straczynski didn't get a chance to pay off that maybe paid off in this? Who knows? But it raises a lot of questions. Maybe they're meta questions, but they're still questions. I think there's something about this book that is valuable.
Okay.
And I wouldn't necessarily write it off. But the problem is, it's, you know, the problem really is Spider-Man fans are a unique bunch. At the end of the day, Spider-Man fans are very different from like fans of The Flash or Green Arrow or like or Captain America.
Okay.
Very different fans. And so it is a very difficult chore to produce the flagship Spider-Man title. It's why they should probably just bring back the other titles. Because if you brought back Peter Parker and Spectacular, Web of, you know, you might go a long way towards like giving people more variety, so you can do other things. Like during Straczynski's run, Jenkins wrote a run. Paul Jenkins had this whole run, drastically different from Straczynski's run, and equally impactful, but like half the readership read the Spectacular run.
Right.
But like, if you were like, I am not into what Straczynski's writing, you can read Jenkins' run and have an equally rewarding and equally impactful and important status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And it all just happens on like an Idle Tuesday somewhere. It's just, you just bounce back and forth, but you're getting drastically different runs. And it's like, that's your problem, Marvel. You are either double shipping Amazing Spider-Man or you're not. But Amazing Spider-Man should be split into like 2 or 3 other books to give the audience, to split the audience and maybe give them like, it would mitigate the criticism.
Right. But you'd have to actually like get creators who had a story to tell and could
not hard to find
and could kind of work together enough.
No, you don't.
Really? You don't think so?
No, that's the problem. The problem with the Beyond era and the Brand New Day era is that they were like, we're making 3, we're triple shipping.
Okay.
And they all have to work together. And it was hard and it took a lot of work.
Well, I just mean like you can't do something like huge, like kill off a character. Really?
They did. They did it. They even did it with when Zdarsky was on Peter Parker. Like Zdarsky is like, oh, J. Jonah Jameson knows who he is now. Amazing didn't even acknowledge that for like months afterwards. Like,
all right.
No, they could do it and it wouldn't matter. Or the real thing you should do, which is the thing that like most folk like me are complaining about, is that like maybe there are some runs where Spider-Man just fucking is Spider-Man. Like they don't have to be the biggest, most important thing. You could just take for granted the fact that you're selling a book called Spider-Man and it sells a certain number. Right. Who cares if Spectacular or Web of sells the same numbers as Daredevil or a Captain America issue 12? You know, it doesn't matter. It's extra money. And you're satisfying those vocal minority who are like, boo, I hate this. Because then they're like, oh, I like this issue. It's just Spider-Man. Like, you know, maybe he's teaming up with different characters he never does. Or maybe he's fighting the Vulture. You know, it doesn't matter. But, like, give them what they want. Because if you're going to deliberately overproduce books, Marvel, make some shit your audience actually is asking for.
That's fair. I mean, it does put a little bit of a issue for, like, if they were doing that with like all like having multiple Spider-Man titles, like would I've gotten a Shang-Chi? I mean, probably because there's a movie, but
yes,
I'm getting
maybe it wouldn't have lasted as long.
I'm getting another Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
After it too. So I'm like,
yeah,
I'm happy for that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also want people to be happy with Spider-Man. So I've got no solution here.
No, well, I mean, the reality is like the concept that like, because this exists, you don't get this is felonious. Like you don't get something at the expense of another thing in comics. Like when you're like, oh man, I love this run on this thing, like I love Darkhawk, but they won't publish Darkhawk because they're publishing too many Spider-Mans. There's no reality where that exists.
That might be though, because like they might go look at their bottom line and be like, okay, listen, we can't afford to publish all of these books in a month.
Marvel can't afford to publish the books they're publishing right now.
I guess that's true.
And like, with DC, I do believe it's like you're publishing too many friggin' Batman books.
Yeah.
You should be trying it out. But like also, if you don't like, if Batman doesn't come out this month, comic shops don't make their rent. Like, yeah. So but there's an article about that you can read at CBR where they talk about that.
That's right.
Harishi Venkatesh says, speaking of Black Label, Tiffany, that was a while ago. You read Hellblazer Rise and Fall, sat down and read it this week, and immediately got taken aback by the actual logo of my own Liverpool school on Young John's blazer.
Oh, that's great. I love that they use a real logo. That's a lot of fun. That was not my favorite Hellblazer book, though. I'll be honest. I'll be perfectly honest.
Run.
It was, Spurrier's was mine. I just could not get into Rise and Fall. It just wasn't. I was coming off of Spurrier's run. It just wasn't as good.
Yeah.
For me.
Algie Try just dropped in just in time just for Sal's take on Spider-Man. I blame old comic book fans for becoming writers on these weird status quo. I don't think so. I don't think
that's what the problem is at all. And like, I'm not even reading it. I don't think that that's what the issue is. I think the issue is like, it's like company-wide mandates against what a creator wants to do. And so like the creators like promised, maybe, I don't know for sure, but like promise like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want. And then it's like, but actually now that you're down this road, no, you can't. So the runs get like muddied because they have to fix the thing that they thought they could do.
Yes. I think that it's just a lack of oversight and a lack of true planning or stick-to-itiveness when it comes to that planning. Cat Lawyer will defend retreats comics. This time it'll be different, I promise. That's mainstream Western comics, man. That's how it goes. But yeah, man, that's exactly right. Beautiful Vash. There could be some reality bending involved, or maybe MJ has implanted memories, or they could be clones, or Mysterio doing mind games. Who knows? The fact is, no matter when you get to be old enough, or you read enough comic books, you will realize that like they could say, like this run could say that Mary Jane had these children when she was in college, and that she has been like that this family, has been looking for her forever. She gave birth to them. She let them up. Who knows? And then the next run could go Mysterio, or the Jackal, implanted memories. Like they could just do that anyway. So like, and that
or Moira, because you have the Moira wild card here too.
Yeah. Supreme
Robots.
Omega, in hindsight, yeah, it's cute and quaint that the whole Peter is a clone twist in the Clone Saga pissed off fans, considering there are worse stories later on. Yeah, who'd have thought? Except, we've been conditioned on this for a while, but like the idea that an angel named Judas Traveler was interested in Spider-Man because he had a pure soul, who was then contacted by a race of like watchers called scryers to and then he wasn't an angel, and then he was a mutant, and then he wasn't, and it was like stupid. Nothing about Spider-Man during the Clone Saga lined up with being Spider-Man.
Right. And also like it kind of like, not that there wasn't ridiculous and like what are you doing with character stories before that, but like it's almost like Marvel got the like, okay, we messed up, but hey, we were forgiven, and people still bought books, so okay.
Well, it's like, I don't care about being forgiven. You bought the books. At the end of the day, the number's still the number. And the Twitter outrage about Mary Jane's children does not equate to sales. So I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Like I firmly believe that, like, by the way,
like lessons were learned by the Clone Saga, kind of. Like there was like a weird little lesson. Like they did undo it and they did fix things from it, but like there was like a little something they learned in the back of their minds where they're like, we can do whatever we want.
Right. We pissed off everybody and they bought the crap out of his returns. So that's that. Except you have to deliver on that. Beautiful Vash. Do you think they should bring back the MC2 universe? I'd really like to see what Mayday and the rest of the cast of the MC2 are up to now. Honestly, yeah. I mean, like, why not? I know there were fans of the MC2 universe.
You don't have an Ultimate Universe anymore. Why not?
Yeah. Bring back the Ultimate Universe.
I'm just saying, if you don't have that, then...
Yeah, no. I mean, like, they keep bringing back that awful 2099 universe every so often.
You wanna keep like publishing like more books than you need to each month? Do that.
Yeah, do that.
that.
J-Man27 Joestar read your CBR article. Very nice. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Yeah,
very nice.
There'll be another one next month, and probably about Spider-Man.
Ooh.
And about that fandom thing I was talking about. But like, yeah, at the end of the day, if you're looking for like a new run on Spider-Man, I mean, like you could, I'd try it. Try it out. Read it for yourself. Like, I think you should. James, do you think the MCU would ever try a third Phoenix Saga? Yeah. Without question. You?
There's a hopeful part of me that says no.
Right.
Because as much as I want to see it done properly and appropriately, I think I'd rather just have them try something else.
Yeah.
Just try something else on for size.
The Happy Masquerader. So what do you think? Spider-Man can't have consistently great runs like Daredevil? I would have said it's too big for Marvel to allow big risks, but they're clearly like ruining things Spider-Man fans love, because they don't because Daredevil's a niche character and the creators can do whatever they want with that character. And typically those characters, if you are going to write Daredevil, you have to like Daredevil a lot, and you have to have, and Daredevil, because he is not as big a character or has a big enough fan base as Spider-Man, you can drag him through the mud and there's less noise about it. So there are fewer people complaining. So your judgment on what's happening is less clouded. And so you're more willing to to go on the ride. And then when his triumph is felt, it's all the sweeter as a result. So that's how it is. Let's jump into some recommendations, shall we? Let's recommend some things. Dark Crisis is getting a 0 issue this free comic book day. I highly suggest you pick it up if you want to know what the hell's going on. it seems like fun. Flashpoint Beyond #1 is getting
that's
a book.
right. Free comic book days this
It's
weekend.
this Saturday. Yeah, I know. Flashpoint Beyond #1 is coming out on Tuesday. Let's see where this goes. I promise it has nothing to do with anything else. Batman Killing Time. I'm digging this book. So read it and check it out. Free Comic Book Day, by the way, is also getting a Avengers X-Men Judgment Day first issue. Remember that big Eternals thing? Well, that's happening.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's happening.
Check that out on Free
to,
Comic Book Day.
Yeah, I'm going to try to have to get that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's it.
Oh.
For me.
Oh. Okay, I am going to be looking at... Sorry, I'm scrolling through it right now. Oh, boy. Task Force Z is a book that I keep reading, and I couldn't tell you why. But listen, I'm reading it, so I'm going to pick it up. I don't know if I recommend it, though. Marauders #2.
Yep.
I'm going to grab it. Why not? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get this book.
I think I know what you mean.
I don't know if I'm going to grab Giant Size X-Men Thunderbird #1 because, like, I liked some of the Giant Size, but I really didn't like some of the other ones. This is written by Steve Orlando and Nyla Rose with art by David Cutler. So I'm not 100% on this. I think just because I got burned on some of the other ones. So I was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Once shame on you.
Yeah. Once in Future #25 is coming out. Did you see the Free Comic Book Day Spider-Man Venom #1?
I missed that. Yeah, I guess I'll pick that up. When people were talking about like how they were worried about John Romita on art,
yeah,
I have never liked the John Romita Jr. Venom drawing. And I think this might be my least favorite John Romita Jr. drawing of Venom I've ever seen in my life.
It's not great, but it is Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. And there's also going to be an all-out Avengers story in the back written by Al Ewing and Ram V.
Worth getting then.
So might be interesting if you can get that Free Comic Book Day edition. Yep. Little Monsters #3. It's a Jeff Lemire vampire story. I'm telling you, vampires, man.
They're back.
They're back. If you were reading Monkey Prince, I not that I fell off of it. I missed a couple of issues, but #4 is coming out. So I just want to remind those who are still reading it that is coming out. And I wanted to pick up this thing that I saw actually advertised in another book I was reading, because a whole bunch of horror comics that are going to be coming out from Image. And there's a Free Comic Book Day edition of the Bone Orchard Mythos, which is like Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino are like putting together this, like, I think it's supposed to be an interconnected universe of horror stuff.
Okay.
So I'm like, I got to check this out. Like, I have to check this out. So that's a Free Comic Book Day preview. So that's a good time to check it out because you can see if you're going to end up buying this later on, especially because don't forget, Image isn't really doing second runs anymore. They don't want to pay for the paper, which is fair. No. Paper's very freaking expensive right now. And then one other thing I forgot to mention that I know we talked about beforehand, I thought this was interesting. I just wanted to point this out. If you had Saga and you made it to the end past the letters, did you happen to notice that in the like little like, hey, here are some things that are coming up from Saga? One of those things is like they let him put in here, Brian K. Vaughan has a Substack and there's a comic he's putting out through Substack and there's an ad for it in Saga. And I was like, they play in ball because I'm going to guess it's going to be printed through Image when it gets printed.
That would make the most sense. That would be I could see that being the only reason why Image would let him do it in the first place.
Right. But I was like, that's interesting.
Especially because there's no reason not to. Like, by the way, like with those Substack deals, like they facilitated their own deals when it comes to printing. So it doesn't like, they picked like a lot of them picked Dark Horse but only because probably Dark Horse offered a super sweet deal, but like there was no obligation to pick Dark Horse. They could have gone self-published or anything really, but like, so I could see, Vaughn has probably a very, very nice relationship with Image, and I could see them doing that. Yeah.
Additionally, right across the way from that, because this is supposed to be an NSFW graphic novel. That's what the new Brian K. Vaughan one is Twig, which is a Scotty Young book, which like tends to be a little more all ages. I just thought that was very interesting. I think this one's coming out this week too, I think. Twig.
Nice. Yes, it is.
But I just thought that was so funny. I'm like, juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, he did, what's it called? I Hate Fairyland, which was very not.
Yeah.
But the art is deceptive. You're like,
it is.
oh.
So there you go.
But listen, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us and subscribing and liking our video, and of course for your support, your super chats really help us out. They are
Yeah,
the
thank
sponsor of
you.
today's show, so thank you for allowing us to talk for over 2 hours
Oh
about
my
your favorite
gosh.
comic books. And we'll see you guys next time with an all-new episode of Off the Rack. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get updates like the conversation that I'm having with Josh Williamson that's happening. That's going to be released tomorrow, or it'll be available on our Patreon.com/ComicPop right now, so you can watch it right after the show if you can't get enough.
Wow. Nice.
And we got an extra episode of Elseworlds Exchange. We got Josh Williamson on Tuesday and maybe another one on Friday. Who knows? Or yeah, Friday. So with another creator. But yeah, hang in there, and we'll see you guys next time with an all-new episode. I'm Sal.
I'm Tiffany.
Oh, hey, don't forget to go to twitch.tv/ComicPop. Watch Tiffany play video games during the week. It's a lot of fun, and it's a terrific community. So you'll know you'll be a welcome addition.
Yes, absolutely. Just be nice.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time. I'm Sal, and again.
And I'm also still Tiffany.
So long.
Bye.